Hello, everybody, and welcome to podcast episode 89. I'm your host, John Van Derzen. I'm here by myself. I'm here without Terry Miller tonight. Terry is still over on the West Coast, and he is going to be there right now. He's actually taking the guest that I wanted. I think he's working with Ricky Wysocki right now to do some recording of the Masters Cup. Terry went out there with Joe Height and got all that wonderful footage. And now he is putting a commentary behind it. So what Terry is doing is going to be releasing that, hopefully. I know the goal was to release it tomorrow. I can't tell you for sure if that's going to happen because I haven't spoken with him all day today. But we're going to have Dana on a little bit later. Our first guest is going to be Matt Krieger. I'm going to quickly here hang up the call on him. I've got him sitting there. I'm going to hang up on him, and I'm going to call him back because there's something weird with my video. So hold on one second. How is everybody doing out there today? We have, I think we got a really great show. The UDisc guys are really putting together a fantastic, or I could go as far as say phenomenal, app that we plan on using for the Pro Tour. They're working with Steve Dodge and getting all this stuff together. It's kind of crazy. We're gonna have Dana on a little bit later. Dana was scheduled to be on first, but this is not an older teen who's on first. It's Dana was gonna be on first, but he just texted me and said he's running a little late because he had to go pick up Ashley from the airport. So what we have now is we're gonna go with Matt Krieger, Dana, and then we're going to follow it up at the end of the show with a good set of UDisc picks. I'm not going to spoil anything, but Terry was not the best picker this week. So without further ado, we're going to be joined here by Matt. I believe it's pronounced Matt Krieger or Kruger. I'm not sure
Kruger,
which one.
Actually,
it's Krieger. Perfect then.
Kruger,
like as in Elm Street. Yes. All right.
Yep.
So Matt, you are the. Well, I won't even tell. Why don't you tell us what your relationship is with UDisc?
So I am the creator of UDisc. It came about 5 years ago. I started working on it, and 2 years ago, a second person joined. So now there's two of us that have been working on it. He basically joined to build the cloud for us. His name is Josh. I wish he could be here today, but he's based in the UK, so he's fast asleep.
It's like 3 a.m. there or something? What's
3 or 4. I think he's actually on vacation in Scotland for a couple days, so I don't. Yeah, I think it's still the same time zone, but
must be rough.
Yeah, rough life for him. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, Josh is awesome. He's the reason that this is happening right now. He's been a big part of what we're about to show you. So I got to give props to him before we start.
Well, that's good because I know he's a big part of what you're doing, and he's a big part of what you guys are doing with the Pro Tour.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. Kind of came about randomly. Steve Dodge approached us in November and asked if we'd be interested in helping him build something. And it just so happened that we sort of had this feature on our docket for this year already, but this certainly accelerated the timeline a bit and made it a real deadline that we had to complete, for a tournament that's happening in June. So kind of sped things up and made us really, go full steam on it.
So how many of these upcoming things that you're going to show us were already in the pipeline versus what Steve came to you and said, hey, I need X, Y, and Z. I need your app to do it out there. Because honestly, your app is it's one of the premier apps out there for disc golf, especially for scorekeeping and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've got well over 100,000 users now, so it's become a pretty big thing. It started very humbly. It was just a course finder because I wasn't happy with what was available out there. And eventually people were prodding me to add the scorecard, and so I did. And then I kind of fell in love with creating scorecards, and it's just like a really interesting. Yeah, I'm a big nerd. I'm a software guy, and that's kind of an interesting problem to solve. It's actually a pretty complicated and interesting problem.
Really?
So we've become pretty good at making scorecards at this point. And so in terms of what was on the docket already and what Steve Dodge brought to the table. So we definitely plan to build a live scoring system. This was kind of the natural evolution of what we've been building with UDisc Cloud for the last couple of years here. But the whole really, really in-depth stats and the notion of Circle 2, some of those things were things that Steve brought to the table, which we'll touch on shortly for those of you who have not been enlightened yet.
Yeah,
the glory that is Circle 2.
I was going to say, right now, you tell most people Circle 2, and they think that's not possible. There's no way someone can get a circle 2 on a scorecard. So you're going to
Well,
explain what circle 2 is to everybody, aren't you?
well, yeah, we're not talking about going OB twice on a hole or getting an eagle or, whatever, 2 times you circle a number on a
No, yeah.
scorecard.
I suppose if you had 2 circles, that'd be a 2 circle. I was thinking like circle 2, like someone gets a circle 3, they go OB but hit the putt, and
Right.
there's no way to get a circle 2. So that's
I
great.
think you could do it in one of the leagues I play around here in the winter. They don't count a penalty stroke if you go OB, but it still counts as an OB. So I think
Okay.
you could get a circle 2 if you ace the hole on your second time or something like that.
There. Oh yeah, there you go.
Maybe
A no
no,
penalty.
that would be a double circle 3, wouldn't it? I don't know.
I know. I
I
bet
can't.
you that I'm sure the USDGC will come up with a way to get a circle 2. So just hold tight.
Sure.
We'll wait this year. I'm sure they will.
Yep. But in all seriousness, circle 2, which is one of the things that Steve Dodge has come up with to kind of help us more better define what a putt is. That's really the point of it. So this came about because circle 1 for the top pros has kind of become routine. Like anybody that's a top pro is basically going to make almost every putt from inside of 10 meters, which is circle 1.
Yeah.
So it kind of was a natural thing to eventually expand to circle 2, which, as you could imagine, is between 10 to 20 meters. So if Macbeth or Wysocki or somebody like that is making a 50-footer, we can count that as a circle 2 putt. So that allows us to kind of differentiate between a putt and a throw-in.
Now, watching the way these guys putted this past weekend, are we going to look at a circle 3? Because these guys were hitting them from outside of 50, 60, 70 feet. You know,
Well, I don't know if I'm authorized to speak on that subject yet, but I can tell you that it has been brought up.
Oh wow! All right, I was only joking, but these guys are just getting so good. So, all right.
Yeah, it's really amazing how accurate and consistent some of these top guys are. I'm just in awe watching them routinely drop these 70-footers.
Yeah, it's kind of sick.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and get us into the actual app as far as
Okay.
what people can look forward to?
Do you want to start with the score entry part?
Yeah, let's start with the score entry part. Now, most people think, score entry, they're going to be looking at their phone, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of score entry, what I'm talking about here is we've come up with this idea that we're going to have volunteers from the crowd, or not necessarily from the crowd, but predetermined volunteers that are going to be following one per pro card to enter scores for every player so that the players don't have to be involved. Because the last thing that we want to do is distract them more and have them be writing down or trying to keep track of more metrics when what we really just need is a third-party observer who can fully dedicate their time to this without having to worry about making their next shot at the same time.
And this could be in theory a caddy who's familiar with how the UDisc app works, or a dedicated volunteer.
Certainly, yeah. So we built custom iPhone and Android apps. So basically anybody with a somewhat modern smartphone should be able to pick this up, log into the scorecard, and then keep track of the score.
So my flip phone's not going to work for this?
Unfortunately, no. We have to draw the line somewhere.
My Palm Trio?
Yeah, I don't. I haven't seen one of those for a few years, but I don't think that it runs Android or iPhone or iOS. So.
Oh well, yeah, okay, that's all right.
Okay, so why don't we just go right into a demo here? So I have on the left side, I have an iPhone simulator, and on the right side, I have an Android simulator. And just to get real fancy, I'll do both at the same time, just so you can kind of see what we're working with here. And if it's a little slow, please forgive it. It's just because it's a simulator that's running on a real device. It's very, very snappy.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, first of all, I just logged into 2 different scorecards, on the left on iPhone, on the right on iOS. So we're going to probably just do the right one at first, to do the Android one, but I just kind of wanted to show you that we can do both. And I will enter one from both so you can see multiple things coming in. So on the right here on Android, I'm going to click on Begin Scorecard, and hopefully it goes. There we go. We're already on hole 9, so this is an in-progress round. As you can see in the background here, I've got, can you see my mouse pointer? Probably.
Yes, everyone can see your mouse pointer.
Okay.
Everyone's seeing exactly what's on your desktop right now.
Wonderful. So as you can see over here, this round is already in progress. This is a mocked up Minnesota Majestic, which is late July this year. So this is the round at Vision Quest. We're on hole 9 here. And so we're going to pretend that we are a person who is keeping score for the lead card. Let's say that Macbeth. So first of all, let me back up for a second. What we did with this scorecard entry is we've kind of rethought the whole concept of entering scores. So traditionally, you're entering strokes, right? You're thinking, I got a 3, so I'm going to enter 3 strokes. What we thought about was that you can't really get any context from that. All you know is how many throws it took him to get it in the basket. So what we wanted to do was to be able to track where each disc lands. Once you have that information, you can calculate dozens and dozens of statistics, from greens in regulation to fairway hits to circle 2 putts to circle 1 putts to scramble percentage, and the list is endless and infinite, hopefully. So anyway, let's pretend like Macbeth, we're going to hit the plus button here. So he threw his first shot. We're going to say he landed in circle 1. We'll start off with a really easy example. So I'm just going to hit circle 1. So you'll notice there's a little circle 1 symbol that we've come up with here, which is kind of the target. So that's circle 1. So he landed there in his first shot. And then let's say his second shot, he makes his putt. So he goes in the basket. And then we're going to estimate the distance here. And there will be circle 1 drawn on the ground. So it should be pretty easy to estimate, if it's a 12-foot putt or a 27-foot putt. So let's just say he made a 27-foot putt here.
So at Vibram, what we're looking at having an actual, the normal circle that we have on the ground, but then we're talking about having an additional circle, hopefully. So what some of the viewers see is, whoever is in charge is going to have to about estimate where a player hits from. If it's, right on the circle's edge, like 33 feet versus about halfway, which obviously can be 15 to 17 feet, there's going to be a little, we can't use GPS for these things. So there is going to be a little bit of leeway.
Yep, certainly. Yeah, we wanted to use GPS, but unfortunately, GPS is really not very accurate. It's a question I get all the time with UDisc. Why did my throw measure come off 50 feet off or something like that? And GPS is pretty fragile. Even leaves on a tree or clouds in the sky can degrade the signal. And as we all know, disc golf courses, especially Maple Hill, are pretty wooded, and therefore it just wouldn't work.
Okay.
So we're relying on estimates, but I think that we can agree that if there's a 10-meter circle drawn on the ground, that it's pretty easy as an experienced player to estimate within a couple of feet where they're throwing from. So anyway, let me show you one more example here, because I didn't get to show you the website in the background here. We'll get to the nice review page here. Let me click on it. There we go. So before I show you one more, the scorekeepers will get this nice little review page every 9 holes so that they can check to make sure that everything is okay before they proceed. So we'll just go on to the next one here. So let's say on hole 10. So now what I want you to do is look where my mouse pointer is over here. So we're going to enter right here, hole 10 for Macbeth. So I'm going to give him, we'll say he landed in circle 2 on his first shot. He landed in circle 1 on his second shot. He missed his putt. And then on his third shot, he had a tap in. So we're calling anything under 2 meters a tap in, so that because it's pretty pointless to differentiate between a 3-foot putt and a 5-foot putt.
Yeah.
So we'll give him a tap in, and you'll notice that the score showed up pretty much right away right here.
So now there's no delay between because what people are seeing in the background, that Minnesota Majestic Vision Quest screen, that's a pretty close approximation to what our users are going to be seeing if they have this open in a browser, correct?
Yep, certainly. So what I'm showing over here, I'll just make this full screen. This is exactly what you'll be seeing. So you'll be able to go to a website and view this exact same thing, or you'll be able to access it from inside of the free version or the paid version of UDisc. There's a plugin that we're going to be releasing here in a couple weeks. So it'll be like a nice mobile-friendly website that is pretty responsive and should look good on just about every device. There's still some work to do there, but that's kind of the last thing we're doing here before we're done.
Yeah, making it pretty is always the last thing any developer does.
For sure. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
People don't realize sometimes, making this little corner here look nice. I spent 3 hours doing that, and then
yeah, the square versus rounded edges. Trust me, it all adds up, and there's always, you can have 1,000 different debates.
For sure. So before we go too much further, you're probably wondering, so if we're collecting all these data points with where every throw landed, why am I not seeing that here? Like this, there's nothing extra special here.
Yeah,
well,
I just see a score.
Exactly, it's just a score. Well, there is a lot more to it. So if you click on the drop down here, you can actually get a detailed hole-by-hole look at where every throw landed. So for example, if we look at the throw or the hole that we were just scoring for, you can hover over this and see that, okay, his drive landed in circle 2, if you can read that. It says circle 2, 10 to 20 meters from basket. And his green in regulation, so he got a green in regulation because we count a green in regulation as if you land in circle 2 or better in par -2, if that makes sense. So on a par 3, your drive has to land
Sure.
within 20 meters of the basket, and on a par 4, your second shot has to land within 20 meters of the basket.
You're more or less giving them one attempt at a putt.
Exactly. Yep. So we're defining a putt basically as anything inside of circle 2. So anything inside of 20 meters or approximately 66 feet. So then again, by looking at this, so his drive landed circle 2. He got his green in regulation. His circle 1 putt he missed, and then his circle 1 putt he made from 2 meters. Right now it's just showing meters because we just did a beta test in Norway the other day, and I got to flip it back to feet. I forgot to do that. So.
Well, I was going to ask you, and there was a good question by Chris Cobb on the board, is how come this isn't done in meters? So you're saying that this easily converts depending on where the event is being held. That's fantastic. I know you and I have done this before. I've seen a lot of these things, but that's something not even I knew. That's really cool.
We decided that we wanted to make this completely, internationalizable and friendly and familiar to anybody that plays disc golf. And there is a huge burgeoning scene in Western Europe and, Sweden and Finland and Estonia and the Czech Republic and Norway and, everywhere over there. So as you'll notice, everything on this UI is in feet and meters as I move this slider.
That's great.
Yep. And so on the website, that is probably the one place where we may have to pick one or the other just because there's not enough space to show it all.
Sure.
But for now, it's just in meters right now because I forgot to flip it back. But
it's all right.
All right. Should we get into some more detailed stats?
Yeah, let's get into more detailed stats. So we have now Paul and Cale have both completed hole 10.
Yep.
And let's go ahead and show us what some of those things are now that you've collected all that data. What are we going to see with that?
Well, so the first thing that you'll notice, which is right here in the dropdown, you can see their fairway hit rate, their circle 1, circle 2 in regulation, their scramble rate, et cetera. And one thing that I should note is that everything that you see on this website updates instantly, including all the graphs, all the stats, all the scores, all the symbols, everything. It's instantaneous. We're using a really modern framework that doesn't rely on refreshing. It basically just pushes the data when it's ready. So every graph you'll see will be redrawing as data comes in. But I'm going to click on stats here so that we can go to a more detailed view.
Yeah, for those of you that are used to watching like the PDGA scoring app, it updates every, I think 30 seconds, is maybe 60 seconds. I forget what it's set to. But this will actually, it's rather than we'll say a pull, it's a push on your side. So it's just going to get updated immediately.
Exactly. Yep. So it's pretty much instant. We've had it, pretty much within less than a second from the time that the scorekeeper finishes entering it. Almost everything should be updated. Some of the graphs might take 2 or 3 seconds, depending on how much data there is.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we tried. We tried so hard. So I'm just going to show you really quick. Let's give Nate Doss here an ace. So he's going to be this row down here. So I'm just going to say he goes in the basket. So hopefully, within a few seconds, there you go. So you notice that ace just showed up right there.
That's pretty quick.
Yep. So within a second or two, and that's one of the more, I guess it's not one of the hardest calculations, but it's harder than just showing a score. There's more going on there. So
yep.
One thing I didn't mention on the scorecard, and I'll just show it here because it's applicable everywhere. Every single column that you see on every single page is sortable. So for example, if I want to sort by distribution of scores, I can click on scores here, and it's going to run a little algorithm to weight. Like an ace is worth a certain amount of points, and a birdie is worth a certain amount, and an eagle, and so forth, so that you can kind of sort people based on their distribution of scores on the course. I think this is kind of a neat one.
Yeah.
So because Nate Doss got that ace right there, that weighed a little bit more heavily than these eagles that Macbeth has, and so it popped him a little bit above him, even though he doesn't have as many birdies. But it's kind of an interesting algorithm. But you can click on any of these columns here. It'll try circle 1 in reg. You can go see who's putting the best from circle 2, or who has the highest scramble percentage. Might be a little choppy on the video share there, but so then circle 1 putting, and then you can sort by any of these to kind of figure out the context of why somebody did better than somebody else, which is what we were going after. In the end, a lot of the time you'll go look at the live scoreboard and see, somebody won by 2 or whatever it is, and somebody got that triple bogey right at the end, but you don't necessarily know exactly what happened. There's just no context.
Yeah.
So some of this you can go look, their putting was really bad on that one hole, or they had that triple OB and got that triple circle 9 or whatever it was. So let's see, we'll go. So I've showed this, by the way, this stats page that we're on right here, this is for this current round, or for this current tournament, I'm sorry.
Now, are you keeping one of the things that we've seen with the World Tour and their metrics is a cumulative update? Are you keeping stats for particular players for the entire year as well?
Yep. So if you can see where my mouse is up here,
Yep.
if you do this stats, this is like overall stats, and we'll get into that in a second here.
Okay.
So just to be clear, what I'm showing you now is all just for this current tournament.
Perfect.
And we'll get into the historical stuff in a second here. So there's a lot more to this. Okay, so this is player stats. So now if we go to whole stats here, this is one that I think Terry is going to be very interested to look at maybe while he's broadcasting. So again, all this stuff is going to be updating, instantly on the fly as the data comes in. And there's only stats through hole 10 right now because we haven't played hole 11 or 12 or anything yet. But again, all this is sortable, and you can, if you want to figure out what the hardest hole is, okay, sort it by which hole had the highest average above par, basically. So I just clicked on it once. Now it's telling me hole 7 right now is playing the hardest, and it's actually tied with. Is that
a new column that you've added recently?
It's somewhat recent. It was something that may have been brought up by a conversation that I had with a certain Smashbox employee.
Okay, just wondering. I don't remember that column last time we talked. So
yeah, and there's even a little bit more to this. So again, this page probably looks just like the one that we were just showing you for the player stats.
Yep.
But we went a step further with this one, and if you click on the hole, so let's click on hole 7. So now we can see kind of a more visual breakdown of that hole. So we can see this is first for difficulty. The average score is 4.17. 6 people played it so far. And you can go look at how people are hitting the fairways or putting or scrambling. And you can, sort of use this as a way to visually gauge how the hole is playing for the field on that specific day.
That's
great. So this isn't, last year everybody shot this. This is today everybody shot this.
Yep. Now this will be useful obviously for everybody, but specifically how this ties into Smashbox is, like you mentioned, this is something that Terry's going to be really interested in. So during the broadcast, these are some stats and figures or graphs that we might be able to put up during the broadcast, things that Terry can reference, maybe that the viewers who are watching on a television that don't have a tablet sitting next to them. I don't know why you wouldn't, because everyone wants to chat with Smashbox and view these stats. But these are things that Terry will be able to bring up as far as stats and facts and figures for pretty much every hole. Are you clicking and pulling those out?
Yeah, there's some little eye candy here. So you can interact with these graphs a little bit. If you click on one, it'll just separate it. But these graphs there's only 2 pieces in each one of these graphs, so they're not super complicated, but they're still kind of fun. The one I didn't show you over here is kind of the score distribution, which is kind of a fun one. So eagles and birdies, pars, and then a bogey and above. And you can also actually see a breakdown for every single player on that hole. So if there were 80 people that had played this hole, you'd see everybody's scores here, and then again you can sort them. So you can say who got the best score on hole 2, and you can actually go to this page and say, oh, Macbeth got an eagle, it looks like, and he parked his drive.
Okay,
which is pretty cool on a par 4.
and not untypical of him.
Nope, not atypical at all. Okay, so that probably gives you an idea. Again, this page is for every single hole, so you can go hole by hole and get a breakdown of what that hole looked like. I think that's it for current round stats. So now let me show you what I think is some of the cooler stuff here. So if we go we're back on the player stats for this round page. So let's say I click on Paul. So now I'm going to get to his profile. So again, this may look similar to the one that I just showed you. That's because some of the graphs are the same. But as you can see, it's kind of a pretty little glimpse of Paul as a player in the Pro Tour. So you can look at his tour ranking. So right now, we mocked it up based on the power rankings that the Disc Golf Pro Tour released.
Okay.
So he's in first, I believe, at least what their rankings were when we first started this. I can't remember if it has changed recently due to recent events. I guess I don't know. But we'll have their tour points, which is will be tracked throughout the year specifically for the Pro Tour, and then all these other stats that we've already showed you. Birdie percentage, circle 1 putt percentage, circle 2 putt percentage, and so on. And the interesting thing here is, we've seen like greens in regulation done before, but now we have a way to differentiate it even a little bit more. Circle 2 in regulation or circle 1 in regulation.
Yeah.
Obviously, circle 1 in regulation is a little bit better. So it's kind of nice to be able to see, how close are they getting on their drives? Are they getting within 66 feet or are they getting within 33 feet?
Exactly. It really, you're right. It makes that greens or circles in regulation look a lot more detailed. People will be able to more or less these stats tell a story.
For sure.
these stats will be able to kind of explain to you how a round went. You'll be able to catch up with things. You'll be able to see, well, how come Paul's missed 3 of them inside the circle? The one thing this is missing is he had a tree in his way. Can you take pictures and draw on this thing for us?
Yeah, that's something that we discussed at length, especially with fairway hits.
Yeah.
We wanted to have a way to enter something like that, but kind of from our perspective, our main goal is to be as accurate as we can in terms of how their round, what happened during their round. So the last thing that we wanted was the scorekeepers out there confused by how to use the app and, hitting the tree button or the right tree button or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and then missing their score. So at least for now, we've opted not to do that. Now, what we did instead was for fairway hits, we have some math involved in that where you can't actually so the only way to get a fairway hit on a par 3 is to land in circle 2.
Okay.
Basically.
So
and on a par 4, you can get a fairway hit as long as I believe your second shot would have to land in circle 2. Then your first shot would be a fairway hit.
Okay,
I think that's how we did it. It's something, yeah.
Yeah, because fairway hits are obviously, that's of all the stats, that may be the toughest to determine because we've had this discussion before that with disc golf, some holes have a very defined fairway. You look at, we'll just say hole 2 or hole 3 at Maple Hill.
Mm-hmm.
But
certainly.
But hole 1, you walk up and you could aim wherever you want. Some people are shooting for past the pond. Some people may lay up. So depending on your definition of a fairway, that's where things obviously get a little muddy as well. But those holes are, I wouldn't say they're few and far between. But with the way you guys are doing it, it seems like you're clearing it up a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. So we've had lots of discussions, and we've probably used this for about 30 rec rounds at this point and had lots of discussions amongst my friends and I, and we tried to do some more complicated things with the fairways, but it was just way too hard to to agree on where the disc landed in certain situations. So we went with a much simpler definition, which is simply if the fairway is well defined and your disc lands in it, it's a fairway.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see on this UI, your choices are fairway, left, or right. So if it lands in a well-defined fairway, it is a fairway. If it lands off of that well-defined fairway to the left, it's a left, and conversely, if it's to the right, it's to the right. So, for example, I always like to use, if people are familiar with Blue Ribbon Pines Hole 4, which is their signature 444-foot tunnel shot.
Yep.
It's a very well-defined fairway. If you're even an inch off to the left of the guardian trees on the left side, that's a left fairway hit.
Okay.
So, for example, that was a really clear-cut one, whereas Maple Hill, there will be some judgment calls involved, and
of course, because you're going to have the guy who kicks off a little to the left, but then maybe can kind of straddle out and throw a forehand, and yet his disc may have landed just a hair off to the left, but he's technically throwing from in the fairway. So there's always going to be some questions as to what the thing is, but people have to realize that. And I know you and I discussed this earlier. When it may look funny for the first couple rounds, but when you start putting 100, 200, 300 rounds in here, those edge case scenarios really get compressed, and you won't even really care about those.
Yeah, certainly. I think over time it'll even itself out. And our plan is to talk to all the scorekeepers ahead of time and try to make them come to an understanding of how it should work. And
sure.
I think it'll go okay. So we'll see. But, like I said, we've done a lot of beta tests now, and we've been using it. I've personally been using it for a few months now with my friends, and we've refined this interface quite a bit to the point where it's as simple as possible. And now I can just what I've been doing lately is just handing my phone to a friend and saying, here, enter a hole. And if they can do it, that's a win.
Do you want to bring up your stats and show everybody, or?
Oh, I'll do that in a second.
Oh, really? Okay.
I've had some good rounds on here, but nothing like this fake Paul McBeth getting a birdie on like every hole, pretty much.
That's not fake, though.
It's not far from reality, but I definitely embellished it a little bit.
Sure.
So the last thing I wanted to show you on this page before we go further, I think this is probably something that the stats nerds are really, really gonna like. I don't think we've showed this yet.
No, I haven't seen this yet.
It's probably time. So this is basically just a textual breakdown of everything for that player. So you can, see how many aces, what percentage of aces they have, eagles, birdies, pars, greens, and regulation. So this is instead of having graphs for everything, this is just a textual view of all of it in one place.
Okay. And the ranking is their ranking of all the players that have participated in the Pro Tour?
Exactly. So this
Okay.
is the ranking against the field, and for some of these, they're not on there yet, just because this
Sure.
tournament only has one round on it, and it's not complete. So, again, this is not real data. None of this happened yet.
No. One of the questions someone brought up is whether this stuff will be downloadable at all as a CSV or anything like that, or is that something that we're not sure about yet?
Well, I'll tell you, we have our work cut out for us still. We have a lot of work left to do before the first tournament, so that's
Yeah.
not something that we've really focused on yet, but it's certainly possible for the future. We're not exactly sure what we want to do with, all the data yet,
Okay.
but the thing that we definitely want to do is we want feedback from people on what is the most useful statistics, what are the most useful statistics. We want to refine this over time as much as we can because, so far the sport, it's a great sport. Everybody loves it. Everybody that plays it loves it. And there's just nothing out there for the people that really like to dig into stats. Like if you like ball golf, you can go on PGA Tour and they've got all these different metrics and stuff. And, that's kind of what we want to do. We want to refine it as much as we possibly can and make it as useful to the spectators so that you can still be at the round even if you're not there.
Will another good question here while we're talking about players. Any thoughts on breaking this up by the type of throw, forehand versus backhand?
We definitely played with that one a little bit too. And once again, we opted for simplicity on the entry side
Sure.
to not do that. The only reason being that, there's a lot of players that are switching pretty frequently. And sometimes, a player might, go off the side of a hill and make their throw and you don't even know if they flicked it or, you might know
Okay.
if you really watch the flight and you know that they're right-handed or something. But,
Sure.
let's say there's a lot going on. You may miss that one. And then what do you do? Do you just guess?
Okay. Yep.
It's not a big deal, I think. We want to do it eventually. And certainly, I think that, if you know the players and you know the hole, you're probably going to know about what they're throwing most of the time.
Exactly.
The other thing we wanted to do was say which disc they threw every time. And that was really going to get challenging because they're swapping out discs all the time and they may have thrown one in a pond and they're using their replacement or something and we don't know that.
I'm going to break everybody's heart. Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
There are too many discs and too many styles and too many plastics and too many weights. You'll be pulling your hair out. Don't bother. As great as awesome as that would be, I can't imagine the nightmare that would be.
Yeah, it really truly would be a nightmare, I think. Anyway, so this page actually isn't done, so I probably shouldn't show you that one.
Okay.
We'll do one more here. So I've got the schedule. Not too exciting and not real, obviously, but as you can see, we'll have a nice little page where you can go see where all the Pro Tour events are going to be, and you can maybe get a preview of who's going to be there close to the event. I don't know if that'll be available too much in advance.
Okay.
But as you can see, these are a lot of the test rounds that we've done so far. So if you really wanted to see one, the only one I'll show you is one where I did well.
you gotta find that one where you beat all your friends and
yeah. So if you'll notice, so this is maybe a preview. I'm sure that we'll do more work on this before it's done, but like it'll show who the champion of the round is and what their score was, so you can kind of go get a little historical view of who won that round.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I guess quickly, this is maybe I didn't do this that well this day, but somebody T3J, a local guy, got the first ace on the live scoring system the other day, and it was a pretty good one. So.
Nice.
I think that's probably about everything I have to show. The only thing I didn't show is that if there's multiple rounds, you can go view them round by round. So, for example, we played 2 rounds this day. Here's the second round, and you'll be able to go through those after it's done.
Are you able to show? I know you did another demo for us. I don't know if this is public or not yet, so I'm going to go on a limb here. Maybe what the app would look like for a user. Like, for instance, if I'm out on the course. I'm at my local tournament. One of our big complaints is I can't watch live because I play my tournaments. And I get it totally, because I would probably be there if I weren't doing this as well. But maybe they want to keep track of what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, what I'm showing you, this app that I'm showing you is the separate live scorekeeper app. But the part I'm going to show you will be moved into the regular UDisc app that is available currently. And so right now, you got to click on this button up here. I'll do it on both. So left is iPhone, right is Android. Hopefully it works over here. Yep. Might be a little slow just because, let's see, I got to log in. Okay. So you won't have to log in, by the way. I need to state that very clearly. We are not making anybody register to view any of this data. We are not making anybody log in to view any of this data. This data is free to consume if you are a spectator.
So you're not. I mean, we saw with the World Tour, they wanted to sign in to view all the stuff. This is all going to be open for anyone that wants to just pop in and take a look.
Yep, exactly.
Cool.
Yep, it'll be a website, and it'll also be available inside of the UDisc app. Oops, let me bring Android back. I'll do them both at the same time here quick if I can. Might be a little cooler demo that way. Okay, so on the iPhone over here on the left, so when you first load it, you'll see the scorecard. This is actually exactly, let me go back on here. So we have the same thing up. So on the website behind me and on the scorecard on the phone here, this is the exact same thing. It's just a mobile view of it. I'm going to close this guy, just so you can see the total scores on the side here. So I see 25, 21, minus 19. And on the mobile version, you can click on him and you can see his scores for that round. So you'll actually be able to have a very nice experience on a mobile device, which I think is something that is a mandatory thing these days. And a lot of, it seems like it's harder and harder to find good stuff that works on mobile, but since that's what we are good at, we wanted to make sure that was, a good experience. So, for example, you can swipe through his scores here, and there's only one for hole 10, but he's got the front 9 in. You can do that for each player. But what we think is really the killer thing is that if you want to stream Smashbox traditionally from a phone, you're toggling between one app and the other, and YouTube doesn't really like the background very well, which is a problem.
Correct.
So what we did,
unless you're a YouTube Red subscriber, I know that it does background very well, but that's beside the point.
Can you hear that, or is that
no?
Okay, good.
No, we can't.
So anyway, I can show you. I can close that. I can open it. This is live video, or this will be the live Smashbox stream. Right now, this is just a video of last year's Maple Open, I think, 2014.
So in the app, because I'm trying to describe it a little bit more for our audio only listeners, in the app you can actually click the camera icon up in the upper right hand corner, and it will drop down a live feed of the Smashbox Pro Tour round.
Yep, exactly. And the cool thing is that you can look at the scores at the same time. You don't have to switch to a different app. And of course, the video isn't full screen right here, but there's no way to really do that yet. So
sure,
we're doing as much as we can here, I think, which is pretty cool that you can look at the scores at the same time that you're actually watching the video and follow it hole by hole, live updating instantly all the time. And if you really want to, you can. Let's see if this. I'm not sure if this simulated. I'm using an iOS simulator here, not the actual thing. So I think I can't rotate it, but
so you
will be able to just rotate your device, and then the video will go full screen. And if you rotate it back, then it will go back to this.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. And again, we've got all the same things available here. Here's the stats that I've been showing you. Not all the data is going to be on mobile in portrait. You'll have to go to landscape to see all of it, just because there's not space.
Yeah.
But, you can go click on a person, or you can look at the players of the events pages that I showed you before. So maybe I'll show you Macbeth here quick, or how about Wysocki? So here you go. I'll get rid of the video. We've got Wysocki's page on mobile, and it's kind of the same thing as before. It's hard to scroll on the simulator. I'm using a mouse here, so same thing as before, just a different view on mobile with all the stats nerd stuff and everything.
That's great.
Yep.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you guys been? Well, we'll go into a little bit into UDisc itself. How long have you guys been developing the UDisc app?
Well, I believe I started on it in 2011, and the first version came out in 2012 for Android only, and it was just a course finder. And I kept getting prodded to add a scorecard, and eventually I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. And so we went ahead with that, and we got an iPhone version out, and then it just kind of went from there. And 2 years ago, we wanted to build the cloud so that you could sync scorecards with other players, so that one person in your group can keep score and everybody gets the stats. And that's when Josh came on, and he built most of the cloud backend. And from there, now it's it's kind of gone as far as I think we can take it for the moment. And we're really looking forward to refining this interface and giving people what they want. I think that's our number one thing, is that we're both disc golf fans too. I play as much as I possibly can with the limited amount of free time that I have, and we want to make something that makes people proud of the sport. And I think that's what we're trying to do here.
has there been any discussions about, obviously this is being used for the Pro Tour. Has there been any discussions about being able to open this up to other players, to other events, to other tournaments?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's our goal. I think we'd like to run scoring for the sport of disc golf if we could.
Cool.
I think we've really found a passion here with this. You know, like I said before, making scorecards is a really interesting software problem. And if you can take something you like to do and something that you learned how to do in school and kind of put them together, it's really the most fun thing that you can possibly do. So I think that if we can keep doing this and keep making scorecards and keep making stats and using our mobile and our web skills to build disc golf software, I think that's what we want to keep doing.
Awesome. I'm just looking at, I'm reading through some of the comments.
Okay.
Oh geez. I'm not
I
gonna.
was trying to get them up, but
That's all right. No, I've asked most of them. There's one or two you don't need to read. We don't need to see.
awesome.
But so, is there anything that you really wanted to put in that you just realized you can't do it? Like is there any are there or any long-term goals, we'll say, that, or wishes?
I wish that GPS worked perfectly in the woods.
Yeah, I suppose, because that's one of the that's one of the things we've seen. We're seeing some of these Bluetooth GPS widgets being plugged on the bottom of discs to measure disc speed and time aloft and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, the GPS is only so accurate, and and you're right, it's very finicky.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I brought it up earlier, but that's one of the most common questions that I get from users of UDisc is about measuring throws and how they're inaccurate and things like that. And just so I can say it one time and hopefully more people hear it, it's really up to the environmental conditions and how good your phone is, and if you have line of sight to the sky and things like that. It's a very fragile system. So it really depends on how patient you are. If you're really patient and there's no clouds and there's no trees and the sun's out, you're probably going to get a really good reading. But sometimes you might not. And disc golf is played in the woods, so it's a very interesting challenge, which I know you guys deal with broadcasting and cell signals and stuff like that.
Yeah, cell signals sometimes. What I've learned is cell signals, depending on who the provider is, don't work well through water. So trees, which retain water, sometimes the rain can kind of mess us up a lot and things like that. So has there been any Steve Gans? Do you know who Steve Gans is? Steve Gans is a good friend of mine. He's obviously running the PDGA.com and kind of doing their back end. Have you had any discussion with him about integrating this in with the PDGA, or I know they're kind of doing their own thing, or?
I wouldn't say we've had direct discussions. We've had some sort of intermediary discussions. Like Dodge said something to him, he said something to me. We would really like to. I think our next goal would be to be able to upload this data directly to the PDGA when the event is done, so that people don't have to deal with that massive spreadsheet that I've seen.
Yeah, that spreadsheet is. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, instead of a spreadsheet, it should just be an API that you upload data to. And I think if they're moving that direction, it would be very easy for us to export this data directly to them. And I think that's something that we would really like to do.
Okay, and I know they are with Steve's help. Who's for those of you that don't know Steve's history, he's been in a lot of startup tech companies over on the West Coast, ones that you've heard of quite, and they're worth millions and millions and billions of dollars now. But with his help, the PDGA has really started to open up their APIs and create those links to a lot of things. So I'm really excited to see. Now, how do you see this helping? I'm going to get a little greedy here. How do you see this helping Smashbox?
Well, we had a little discussion about this the other day. So I envision being able to provide scores on the screen at the same time that the people are playing that are live updating, which, and not only that, but being able to show only the card that you're actually filming, as opposed to showing the whole mix of people. And if somebody's, moving up on day 3 or whatever, they'll get thrown into that mix of the top card. And then when you're showing the scores, you're showing extra people. And I think that there's a desire to just show the people that are scoring, or that are currently playing, I mean. And in addition to that, doing some stuff where you could show a little, a banner that has more data or more stats about a specific player, maybe when they do something good or when they're on the tee or something like that.
Yeah, one of the things, and I'm going to spoil a little bit for some of you guys. One of the things that I'm personally looking forward to is we put in a lot of, for our broadcasts, those lower thirds that have people's name in them. And it would take another person sitting next to me looking at the PDGA scoring app, looking at all this stuff currently in order to keep those updated. Because a lot of people are like, I want to see their current score on there. I want to see this and that. We can't do it right now yet. But what you're saying is with a lot of that up-to-date data, we might be able to tie into what you guys have and be able to have that on the fly. So when we see Jeremy Colling go up for a putt, I throw up a lower third that just has, maybe Jeremy Colling's name, what he's sitting at to par, and maybe, his, or where he's at for the weekend, or whatever stats we decide could put up there. So the potential is out there for a lot more data to be pushed out there.
Yeah, certainly when you don't have to deal with Photoshop and we're generating, an image for you, it'll be a lot faster. It'll just be a matter of clicking on a button versus having somebody editing a photo in some photo editing app.
Exactly. Someone wants to know if there's a way for a player to initial a scorecard at the end to verify that it's correct and been checked.
Yeah, interesting. We didn't really think of that one yet. I know that you typically do that on a paper scorecard.
Sure.
And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that for at least the first events, they're still going to have somebody else keeping a paper card. I think that the players themselves will do what they always do and keep a paper card that they're going to turn in to be, the official thing.
And I think they should. I think no matter how far in the sport we get, an individual should still be responsible for their individual scorecard, whether that is a paper scorecard or their individual, if they have an app on their phone that they can verify with to say, oh yeah, that's right. I think that's important. As much as I'd love to see everything go digital, it's tough because, as we know, phones die.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I think Dodge is going to order a slew of portable battery chargers here. We were talking about that yesterday, actually, because that is something that we ran Maple Hill League a week and a half ago, and somebody ran into that where their phone died halfway, and it was like, oh no, what do we do?
Yeah, so he can have portable battery chargers sitting at different holes that are for the big backup holes and things like that.
Yep.
One of the things I've noticed lately, and this is no slight on the PDGA, for large events, we're starting to see the PDGA scoreboard not be able to keep up with capacity. What are you guys doing anything specific to make sure that you can handle the capacity of anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15,000 concurrent hits?
Yep. So we are actually in the process of transitioning our hosting to be done through a scalable service. So we're going to use a modern cloud-based, something like Amazon,
sure,
or one of the cloud platforms that's out there. And the cool thing about those, I'm not sure what the PDGA uses. I'm guessing that they're probably using something similar like that now. But something that's cool about those is that if your traffic gets really high and things start to slow down, you can literally click a button and in the cloud, it'll spin up a new server and start throwing some traffic to that. So you can actually scale infinitely and instantly. It just, it costs a few bucks to spin up a new computer. So that's kind of the thing that we're not sure about yet is, how many servers do we have to have spun up in the cloud for us to be able to handle the amount of traffic? And of course, this is all going to be a learning experience as we go and see how many people are hitting the site concurrently. And the good thing, though, is because of our architecture where we're not actually refreshing the page, that actually cuts down significantly on the burden of the web server that's spitting out the data. So
and
it should go pretty well.
From what I saw, and I'm going to gather that this is a possibility, you were able to pick up the scoring right in the middle of a scorecard. So say Joe is keeping score, his phone dies or he drops it on a rock and cracks it and can't do it anymore. Paul can pick up his phone and be like, oh, here, let me log in on my phone and we'll continue to keep scores.
Exactly. Yep. So you're just logging into something. All you need is the username and the password and you can log in.
Okay.
And obviously we won't be sharing those. So they'll be just for the people, playing the event. But yeah, so for example, I had that iPhone and the Android app. I could have just switched to midway and started keeping score for the other person if I wanted to.
Awesome.
Oh.
You're growing the sport, as everybody loves to say these days. Do you guys have anything else so are you guys sticking with scoring, or do you plan on, are there anything else that you guys have in the hopper? Or are you pretty happy with scoring right now?
Yeah, I mean, we just want to do disc golf.
Hmm.
So I think whatever people want is what we want to do. I think the one thing that I need to say, because this is probably the question that I get the most these days, is when is Android Wear support going to come for regular UDisc for the
Oh yeah.
scorecard? And the only reason it's not done is because of what you just saw. So
You've had
it's
your cycles, as they call them, at another zone.
exactly, yeah. There's a real deadline for this, which is
Hmm.
for the tournament in June. And while I would have loved to have Android Wear done 6 months ago when I started it, I had to stop working on it for a while, obviously to get this done. But as soon as this is done and solid, and we're not
Never.
having to work on it 100 hours a week, then I think that Android Wear will be the very first thing that gets picked back up again. So I've
Okay.
been telling people that it should be out this summer or early fall at the latest, and I'm really excited for it because I've won it myself. So
Yeah. And so as people, maybe people do or don't know, this isn't your full-time job. You have a full-time job right now. This is your secondary job, designing and developing this for the community.
yep, for sure. And I couldn't do it without the help from Josh, so I need to give a shout out to him again. But yeah, so it's just two of us. We're not a big company. We're just two guys that like to make software, and it's evolved into this. So
Well, it
we
looks,
hope to keep
yeah.
doing it as much as we can, and hope that it becomes a full time thing. But we gotta take it as it goes, and just try to put out the best thing that we possibly can.
And so anyone that wants to support you can go out and purchase the UDisc paid app, correct? That obviously helps you guys out. And
Yeah, certainly. And just so everybody's aware, there is a free version, of course, and you can try out all the local features for free. You can keep 5 scorecards and measure 5 throws. I'm a strong believer in being able to try something before you pay for it, because I'm a user myself too, and I hate when you have to pay when there's a paywall just to see
yep.
if something works on your device. So sometimes you might have a strange phone or something just doesn't work and the app crashes, and the last thing that I want is for somebody to have a bad experience. So if you ever do, please contact me and we'll try to fix it.
Awesome.
We do our best.
Well, you're getting a lot of kudos out on the board, so we're really looking forward to being able to tie into these fantastic stats that you have. And I think this was a perfect episode for you guys to come on, because we don't need Terry. He's not a tech
Who needs that guy?
he's not a tech minded guy in general. He got through school a lot with my help. So
Oh, everybody loves Terry.
every,
We
every
miss Terry.
we miss Terry, but he's got a lot more important things to do, like get out that Masters Cup footage right now. So there's a
Yeah,
lot.
I've heard there's some pressure being put on him by some people on the internet to get that done.
Yeah, there always is, and I'll probably talk more about it later. But I kind of have in my own. I went out on a few message boards today and gave my opinion as the fact that I think we're spoiled. We're spoiled in that everyone wants it next day, but the Masters Cup, they asked Terry to do something specific, and they wanted not just hole by hole coverage. They wanted more of a story and all this other stuff. And so that's why it's taking longer. Plus, he got Wysocki to do commentary. So I'm really interested to hear how that goes, because Wysocki isn't necessarily known to being a fluent public speaker, although he's getting much better. So
Right.
we'll be,
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it.
yeah.
That putt was insane.
Yeah, everyone's seen the putt right now, and that's
Oh yeah.
crazy. That had to be at least, I've heard anywhere from 60 to 90 feet, and it looked a good 75. It looked like
For
75
sure.
to 80 for me. So
When I saw it, I thought to myself that was just outside circle 2.
yeah, and you joke that you're gonna get the next thing you're gonna pick up is the Android Wear stuff, but once this platform becomes solid, but trust me, it never ends. There's
Definitely never ends.
there's
But
always something to do. I do the fantasy disc golf stuff on Skip Ace, and there's always things I think like I could improve that. I could do that a little better. I think there's one or two ways I could do this or that. So
yeah, for sure.
it never ends. But
It never ends, but we like it. So
we
if
do.
you have suggestions, let us know. If you have stats that you want to see, let us know. We're open to anything.
Yep, you can reach out to UDisc at Matt Krieger, probably on Facebook if you're friends with him, or the at UDisc app on Twitter. So go ahead and do that if you have any comments or questions or suggestions.
Or Facebook. I'd probably prefer Facebook.
Facebook? Okay, Facebook it is. So the UDisc Facebook page, I'm assuming, right?
Yep, UDisc app.
All right,
Yep.
I'm gonna have to go and like that one, because I don't know if I have yet. So,
Awesome.
but all right. Well, Matt, I appreciate your time. Have a good night and go get some sleep for your job, and then go do more coding. So
Oh, it's every day.
yeah, I know it is. So all right, you have a good night then, Matt.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
All right, everybody. That was Matt Kruger, as we found out. Matt Kruger from the UDisc app, showing us some of the potential that's out there. And he's just a guy who wanted to design a scorecard. And it wasn't even that. He said he wanted to design a course finder because he didn't like that. And then he tied in a scorecard app. And if you think about it, he would said scorecards are a tough thing. And I think he means kind of scoring, because you may go to a course and you might have to decide if that's 18 or 27 holes, depending on what you play. Our Dretzka course has 27 full holes, but a lot of people just play 18 of them. There's all sorts of crazy things you need to do when you get into scoring and scoreboards and stuff like that. So I'm going to give Dana a call. So we're going to get him on the line here. So let's
Boom goes the dynamite.
Dynamite. You're here.
Johnny V. Looking good, buddy. What's up?
Just got it was way longer than I expected. I talked to Matt earlier, and he's like, well, how much time do you think we need? And I said, well, we're gonna have Dana on first, which we were gonna originally. I said, maybe 20 minutes or so with your app, kind of explaining it. And they just, wow, there's so much. We couldn't squeeze it into 20 minutes. There was no downtime, and we took up almost an hour. So that's an app excited. Did you get a chance to watch some of that? What do you think?
I caught a little bit. I just caught about 5 minutes there when I got home and turned the laptop on. Sorry I'm late. I had to go pick up my drunk wife.
I'm sure she'll appreciate. Wait, you said you were picking her up from a flight, and was she?
No.
Oh.
Today was the last day of school with kids, so her and her teacher friends.
Wow!
Her and her teacher friends went out and had a couple beers and
I know
dinner and all that. So I went and picked her up, and that's my hold up, and that's my story.
I know that's fine. I know the pain. My wife was a teacher and she still works in schools as an administrator now. And that last day of school, when they finally get to kick those rotten kids out of class, they celebrate.
Oh yeah.
So did anything happen this weekend? Was there anything? Or was it a quiet weekend, Dana? You're flying out to San Francisco tomorrow. You're missing Did you realize you're late for the event? The Masters Cup was last weekend.
Yep. I would have loved to play it, but I'm not ready to leave my wife and baby for that long of a time to go out and play Masters Cup and then play the St. Jude event. And actually, last year I was going to go play both, but last minute decided just to go to St. Jude because it was just going to be a little too much, and that was before the baby. So now, with school is out as of tomorrow afternoon, and I can get out and about a little bit more easily. So but the Masters Cup, let's get into it. I think everybody knows what happened. I heard there were some spoiler alerts out there. Murder Mike upset some people on YouTube.
I've said it once. I've said it before. You have all of 6 to 8 hours of spoiler-free sports time. This isn't a particular scripted TV show or a movie. This is sports. This is something that happens live. It's one of those things that if you don't want to know, you have to stay off any sort of social media or computer. So too bad to whoever got spoiled. That's what I say.
Yep. So, all right, we all know the story. It was a two-man race between the number 1 and number 2 players in the world, Raincoat Ricky Wysocki, and Paul McBeth. And if you haven't seen the putt, I feel sorry for you, but Raincoat just drained a monster putt on the very last hole of the event. McBeth almost answered to tie, and unfortunately for Paul, he chalked himself up another second place. The Rickster got himself another win. He's on a little bit of a winning streak. We'll give him the win last week. We'll count the win in the American Open.
Sure, he put up some good competition there.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't a walk in the park. But Ricky picked himself up a nice little payday, $3,000. McBeth, $2,000 for second. Barsby, I don't want to say it was a surprise, but he's coming off an injury. and he came out and he played pretty darn good, Johnny. He finished in third place. Started out slow, shot a 1 under at De La, and then he went off eight under round 2, and the final round, I'm not sure what par was, but posted a 1066 rated round. So good to see Greg out there and playing well. I felt like last year I don't want to call it a breakout year. Greg's been an awesome player for such a long time, but
Yeah.
I felt like he stepped it up last year and played really well until his injury. Some other notables that I want to mention from the Masters Cup, we're starting to see some names pop up towards the top that haven't been there before or that haven't been there in a while. One of which, Peter McBride. He is a California guy, legacy sponsored player. He got his best NT finish ever, 5th place. He did that by shooting 52 1066 rated final round, same as Barsby. Then we've got Dustin Keegan finishing inside the top 10. Emac inside the top 10. I'm not quite. I don't know when Emac's last top 10 NT has been, but I know he's struggled with some injuries as of late, and so it's good to see him shooting well again, and it's good to see him finish the event because he's had to drop out of a few events as of late because the knee was just not holding up, and so it good to see Emac back in the mix.
I know I listened to the Inside the Circle podcast, and I was razzing him a little bit, saying maybe
don't spoil it. I'm gonna listen to it on my flight tomorrow.
I'm just saying maybe he should have picked himself, which he didn't do.
Oh, okay. Then I'm gonna throw out a couple of other notables. Scott Withers from Oregon. I believe he's out of Coos Bay, or he once was. I'm not sure where he is now. I think he's Southern Oregon, but throws really hard. He got himself his best NT finish ever. Finished 12th place, but he finished outside of getting that elusive USDGC spot. The 5 spots handed out ended up being the last spot was to Joshua Castle, who finished in 11th place right in front of him. Josh is from California. He's a 995 rated player. He's had the best non-1,000 rated finish. So then one other, I want to give a big shout out to Yuli. He was having a really rough couple rounds, and for Yuli standards, that is,
Of
rounds
course.
1 and 2, he went 71, 74 at De La, 1,009, 989, so not very good. And then he goes 48, 1097. There's a chance it could go to 1,100 once it goes official.
I suppose once those are official, that could float 4 or 5 ratings points either direction.
Yeah, so that'll be something to keep an eye out. See if Yuli get himself that 1,000 or 1,100 rated round, but he was like in 30-something place and jumped up to 6th place to tie with Big Germ and Steve Rico.
Yeah, we joked with him last week on the podcast that he was probably going to take 10th or 11th, and he should be happy with it because he finished so poorly last year. And then to jump up to 6th place is, tied with Doss and whatever. He did a great job.
Yeah. There was a bunch of other events all across the U.S. and world last weekend, some A tiers. Go through a couple of the winners. Over in South Carolina at the Huck Central, there was an 8-person open women field. Sarah Cunningham got first place there. She played some pretty solid golf. On the men's side, Chris Dickerson, what's he famous for?
Chris Dickerson.
Have you ever heard of him?
I have heard, yeah. Chris Dickerson. Couldn't tell you.
He's Rookie of the Year. He's reigning Rookie of the Year.
I would not have pulled that out.
Well, you should probably know that, Johnny. Chris Dickerson, he got himself the win. It was a 4-round A tier. He got himself a little $1,005 payday, and I'm sure a nice bonus from Prodigy. So good shooting there. down, also down south at the Madisonville Open. We had had a couple friends of the show, Dutch Napier, Paul Oman down there, Kobe Juice. But unfortunately for those guys, they did not win. Zachariah Johnson, Latitude sponsored player from Missouri,
Who's been playing really well lately.
Yeah, he's got a, for those that don't know him, if you haven't caught any footage, he's got a really long forehand. He can throw backhand really far, and he's a jump putting machine from 10 meters. If it's 10 meters, 10 to 12 meters, he's jamming it. He's probably making more 10 to 12 meter putts than he is
8 meter putts,
8.5. No, he's a really good putter all around, but he's most notable for his jump putting. I would call him a very electric player. He can go out and just absolutely crush. But he got first place pretty handily. It looks to me like life on the road, tour life, is treating him pretty well. He didn't get the $1,000 payday. First place, 920. It was only a 17-person open field. Rounding out the top few were Jeremiah Krause, Zach Melton, Dutch Napier was in fourth, Matt Kern, who's the Paul Oman lookalike, got fifth. He actually beat Paul Oman by a stick. Paul got sixth place. But I've always wanted to get down to Madisonville. It sounds like the courses are pretty cool there. It's a H.B. Clark event, but the courses look really cool. I believe McFly of Prodigy Disc was there doing some filming, and I caught 9 holes of one of the courses, and it looked really cool.
Awesome.
Other A tiers we had over in Finland, Pasi Koivu kind of went off.
Really?
On the field. Yeah, he went 10-32, 10-17, 10-60. Wow. And he won by 7 throws over Yanni something or other and Seppo Paju. But that was a 70-person open field. So he smashed it. We'll have to keep an eye on him with this upcoming European swing. The Tally Open is this coming weekend, and then is it the European Open or European Masters the following week? I should know this.
You should.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I'm sorry, Smashies. But anyways, whatever it is, there's a couple big events coming up. On the women's side, Vanessa Van Dyken. Was she a Rookie of the Year?
I believe she was.
You don't know anything, Johnny.
I don't know. I don't remember Rookies of the Year.
Where's
these
Terry?
young kids? These young kids.
I just realized Terry is not here.
He's not.
It's so peaceful.
It really is. You want to move your camera down a little bit so you're not. There you go. There you go. People want to know A, if you have a shirt on, but B, who your shirt's sponsored by. That's great, Dana. No, Terry's not here. As I stated earlier, he is actually editing the Masters Cup footage. He's pressing it out. He's flying home tomorrow. He's been gone I got to talk with his wife this past weekend. We were at a party together, and she's ready to pull her hair out with her 2 wonderful daughters. But he's sorely missed at home, and he needs to get that stuff hammered out. So because him and Joe are splitting ways for a few weeks or months until we see it probably at the Vibram. So Terry wants to get all that stuff taken care of, and he wasn't positive he was going to have a solid cell signal or Wi-Fi signal to be on the show. So I said, you know what, Terry, take a break. We don't need ya.
Yeah. All right. Well, go get him, Terry. I'm looking forward to that footage, as is everybody else. We're patiently waiting.
Now, I kind of got into this. Steve, I'm going to talk with you about this. We'll talk some current events here. Steve Dodge put out one of his little blogs, and he posted it to every social media site, basically saying the Pro Tour has decided that live coverage is the way to go. What do you think? And not that there's not going to be recorded coverage, because there will be, but that they're putting their apples, and obviously Smashbox is happy about that, into the live basket. And I went off and said, I think there needs to be both. I think both need to be there. But what I would love to see Jomez CCDG, and Terry band together, not work together, but band together and make an agreement that says final round coverage, show the other 2 rounds, final round coverage, delay it for 2 weeks for every event and charge people for it. So if you want to watch it with it the prior 2 weeks, you have to be one of their Patreon. They all have Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be a Patreon member. There's a lot of podcasts I listen to that I get early access to because I support them, whether it's with a nickel, a show, a quarter, $1, depending on what their minimum is. I'd like to see it go that way. So for 2 weeks, you have to be a paid member. And then after that, open it up to everybody. Get your views, your hits. I think I'd love to see that because these guys are working, all of them. Terry, Jomez, CCG, they're all working for less than minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Terry made
away from their families for
days or weeks.
All of them. They're all of them making big sacrifices, and
they're not getting rich on YouTube money.
No.
And sometimes, like Terry, you know, they may get contracted to come out, but you know that's disc golf contract rates. That's not like professional video editing contract rates. So I personally said, plus I think that would help live. Take the Vibram, you know, get that last particular round and say, okay, if you want to watch it, you want to watch the 4-hour live version, awesome, great, you can do that. You can scrub through it, take out commercials, do whatever you want. But that's the one that's available. If you want to watch the edited round, pay these guys.
Yeah.
And otherwise, wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by the pay for the final round model, and I like it. I mean, I need to, you know, I've supported Terry in the past, and I need to get on and support Jomez and Central Coast because I really enjoy watching their videos, and I watch all their videos. I should support them, but I feel like final round, even if it's $1, think of how many it could change
a nickel.
So they're actually making they're actually making a couple dollars, and you know what's going to get better.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't even have to. Like I said, I literally support some of my podcasts with a nickel a podcast. That's $1 every week, and you know, at the end of the year, I think your credit card gets charged only after you hit a certain amount with Patreon. After like your pledge gets to be like $2 or something, or a buck.
Yeah.
A nickel for these guys to put out. You know, would you pay a nickel to watch? Would you, if you saw these guys sitting at a bar, would you buy them 1 beer a year? Because that's what it breaks down to about. You know, if everyone did it at once, those guys are kind of drunk. So that's my thought. Like, I don't think you would kill it, and there could be exceptions if they get paid a decent amount to come to a tournament, and the tournament says, no, we want to make sure that this is out XYZ, like maybe for Masters Cup, then fine, don't do it that way. But some of these events that these guys go to on mostly their own dime, that's personally what I would like to see. And I know a lot of people are screaming at me like, no way, no way, no way. Yeah, but I mean, people are saying $1. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be $1, a nickel. When these guys put out 4 events, a month, if they were to get a nickel at 5,000 views, that's a lot of money. That's a decent amount of, not a lot, but that's a decent amount of cash. So
where's our math specialist on the board, Seti? How much is that? But no, I do the pay to watch for whatever time period. There, you know, we're in an interesting time for disc golf. All of us are, you know, we're seeing the highs and lows of it all, and we're feeling our way through, and especially on the media side, so much. You know, we've talked about it on here I've talked about it, how it used to be the Wild West, and there was nothing really, and then all of a sudden there's a number of YouTubers putting out videos and elbowing each other for, you know, and then sponsors and all kinds of stuff. The game has changed, and you know, it'll be interesting to see how it keeps changing. And me personally, where I'm at, I would pay a nickel to watch early. I would pay whatever. I think
if you feel like, and this is what I say, if you feel like you're getting quality out of them, give that back to them. Just a little bit on his Patreon. $1. But if everybody gave a nickel, that adds up. that adds up quick. So anyway, if you can, go out there and support those guys on Patreon. But that was just my take on it. I think a lot of people are screaming 2 weeks, 1 week, whatever. But my thought is,
There's something we're gonna. Things are gonna. We're just gonna have to feel our way through and find out what works and what doesn't work. And obviously, as we both know, you're not going to make everybody happy.
Of course,
no one is going to agree on one way or the other. I'm all for exploring different options.
Yep.
I like what's going on with, we're not the norm. The norm has changed. The norm hasn't gotten us to that next level in the sport.
Yep.
Whether it's media, whether it's this, that, or the other thing. We need people outside the box. We need Steve and pushing it forward. We need UC pushing it forward. The PDGA to continue to push things forward. And
the
PDGA needs Steve and UC needs, everyone needs each other to keep stepping it up. I mean, this UDisc app is a good good thing. That's. I mean, it's from what I read. I read the article and what I caught here live. I mean, it sounds really cool. So that's awesome. What are we going to see from the World Tour? Will they make some change? Some upgrades to their system? I mean, I thought their system was great. I liked it. It makes sense to me. It's easy to follow. But with UDisc stepping it up, Pro Tour stepping it up, it's just gonna just like what Macbeth's doing to the game. He's pushing it forward, and everyone else is working hard to catch up and beat him, or try to beat him.
Yep. And I'll say this: people are saying that when they pay, there's then they feel like there's obligations. That's right. By putting money into this, not only are you forcing these guys to have obligations because now they have to hit a timeline, but on top of that, you feel obligated to get a good thing. And the cool thing with Patreon is, let's say they put out a crap product, you can go and just cancel that particular nickel for that show or completely unsubscribe. But I'm just saying, value for value. And yeah, the UDisc stuff, I really hope that they work with Steve Gans and the PDGA, because I think that contracting that type of thing out is exactly what the PDGA could do. Steve Gans is doing a phenomenal job, and I've talked to him a little bit, and he's got some really cool things up his sleeve. But he's one guy that's running the entire website and live scoring and all this other stuff, and the rounds and all that thing and all that crap. So offloading this to someone like UDisc, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm excited. Can remember years back thinking about the online, some sort of scoring app and digital stuff and all, and here it is. It's happening, and it sounds really cool.
It really is. So, all right, Dana.
So let me real quick. I don't know if you're cutting me off yet, but I do want to go back to the West Coast. Masters Cup. The women. Katrina Allen has continued her dominance from. It's almost reminiscent of 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago when she won nearly every event she played in?
Yeah.
Won that Prada purse, or was that 3 years ago?
I think it was two. No, I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago. It was 2 seasons
Yep.
ago. She made a small wager with one of the owners of Prodigy whether or not she could win. I think it was 30 events or 32 or something like that. It was, and she played almost every weekend and multiple times in a weekend to barely crest that and get her nice little Prada purse.
Yeah, well, she's playing really good right now. She capped off Masters Cup with a 10-19 rated round. She won by 12 over Paige Pierce. Val finished up third place. Nicole Bradley, Paige Bierkes fourth. Madison Welker. Well, I haven't never heard of her.
Never heard of her. She
got sixth
real
place. Quiet. Melody Bailey and Zoe Andike rounded out the cashing females. Then on the Masters, I mean, it is the U.S. or not the U.S. Masters. It is the Masters Cup. So I want to talk about the Masters division. I was watching the live scoring, cheering for my good buddy Don Smith. Don had the lead down the stretch and then kind of lost it with 3 or 4 holes to go to Jonathan Baldwin, Patrick Brown, and so I was excited. I'm also good friends with Jonathan Baldwin, so I was happy to see JB win. And then all of a sudden, a tweet comes up that Robert Jerez from the second card shot a 57 and jumped the whole lead card. So pretty wild stuff. He went out there and smashed that golf course, won the Masters division from the second card, pushed JB, Jonathan Baldwin to second, Patrick Brown to third, and then Don Smith into 4th place. So I don't know. I would assume that the lead card might have known that the second card was doing well, or maybe they didn't because there wasn't live scoring for the second card. Because I was watching and Marty tweeted that Jonathan Baldwin laid up on 18 and he should have the win, and next thing you know he had gotten jumped. But
that wouldn't happen if they all had UDisc. Just saying.
Exactly. And then we'll go down to the Grandmasters. Shout out to Doug Werner for his 1-throw victory over Mike Loya and Jim Oates. That's the Grandmasters division. Senior Grandmasters, can't forget about them. Hunt Hyde, Double H, took down the victory there. And
PDGA number 2910. That's old school.
Definitely. But yeah, those are all the winners for the Masters Cup. Shout out to the DGA guys and the Masters Cup crew. Braden, busy couple weeks out there in the Monterey Bay area, Santa Cruz area. They had the Masters Cup AM side, then the Daisy Chains, and then the Pro and T side, and then this weekend the St. Jude event. That's 4 major events in 4 weekends. So I mean, John, we all know how many volunteers there usually are. It's usually the same group of guys, the same girls coming out and helping out. So if anyone is out there heading to the St. Jude event and you see someone from Masters Cup crew or Daisy Chains and all, buy them a beer or say that. Make sure you thank them because they're also taking time away from their family and their lives to put on these great events for us. And man, 4 weeks in a row, 4 essentially major tournaments. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think do you think that's what these guys want? Do you think they want like just a bunch of events in a row? Some of these pros, and especially when it's all in the same area.
Yeah, I mean, I think except the Santa Cruz area is awesome. Just going to California is really expensive.
Yeah.
For anyone that's not from there or already out there, and being able to travel cheaply and stay at friends' places or whatever it is if you're on tour or RVs. But yeah, I mean, it is for us in the Midwest, it's an expensive trip, but it is nice. When you're on tour, you don't have to drive 200 miles, 500, 1,000 miles to the next weekend. You just go right down the road, or you stay in the same place for 2-3 weeks and call it home, or recharge the batteries at home for like Don Smith and Sarah. They're from there. They're staying at home. Shasta and JB. Shasta's getting ready to go out on tour. So that nice for a lot of people, but there's so many golfers in California, so their events are filling up with California players anyways. They don't need us Midwesterners.
Well, I just got a text from Yuli saying he's not going to be able to make it, but wherever whatever event we're picking, he's got Macbeth second. So that's his little joke. We're going to be doing St. Jude, but so here's a question, Dana. You've played De La, correct?
Yes.
How do you feel? There was some discussion on social media from people like Drew Gibson, and I think Doss kind of briefly touched on it. Not finishing up on the signature hole of the West Coast, the top of the world, playing that golf course last. And only, some people are upset they only got two rounds at De La, and then they went down to the golf course. What's your take on it?
I would say if it was, I'm guessing it was not a surprise that they were playing, that this was the schedule, or that they were playing 2 rounds and then finishing up on the golf course. That coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's kind of like I, things change, and you got to try different things out. And De La is not the best spectator course.
Not at all. It's very hilly. It's very wooded. It's very dangerous in spots.
Yeah. So for that aspect, I like that it ended on the golf course. I wasn't, I didn't play, and I haven't played the Masters Cup, but I could see where people would be upset, because De La is such a hollow, it's a great course. It's known as one of the best, and you want to put, you go there, you want to play, you want to get your shots in there and get your revenge and all that, and cutting it to 2 rounds. Yeah, maybe it would have played better if it was day 1, De La, and then go to the golf course and then back finish. But again, with where we're getting with these big events, national tours, majors, and all that, with all the spectators coming out, even if it is only 150 spectators, 200, there's not a whole lot of places for them to go at De La, and you're in the way. There's tight. You're crossing fairways, so it kinks up the whole course. It makes sense from my perspective. Move it over there. A lot more spectator friendly. Yes, we're not finishing on the top of the world, but things change, So, you're not always going to finish on the top of the world. You're not always going to get free YouTube videos.
I'm with you in that. I think it has to move. It's unfortunate because if I had a choice to play De La traditional or De La golf course, I'm picking De La traditional because it's more my style of course. I prefer to play it more a tight wooded fairway, a little more action, so to speak, on your disc, as opposed to going out to a, we'll say a wide open golf course and chucking it and hoping you're not OB. Now, I'm not disrespecting the golf course by any means, but it's just what I prefer to play. Plus, I don't throw very far, so but we have to realize that the Masters Cup, maybe they're looking at future potential. There's no cell signal up on the top of that mountain. I'm guessing that there's better cell coverage down near the golf course because we were getting a lot of Instagram updates. We were getting a lot of videos from people. So it could be that they're more forward thinking, you know what? Let's try this out. If it works out, we can fit spectators. Maybe in a year or 2, we'll bring in some live coverage. Maybe we'll do 1 round at De La, 2 on the golf course, or 2 at De La and 1 on the golf. I don't know what their thoughts are. I haven't talked to them, but I understand where pros are coming from. That I want to play this traditional course, blah blah blah.
Yeah. But at the same time, everyone wants. You want to play in front of a crowd. You want the sport to grow. You want all these things, but then when it comes to it, oh man,
how about we?
I'm not playing a 3rd round at De La. I'm not finishing on top of the world. And this is just me playing devil's advocate here. I don't have a dog in this fight, but it, for the spectatorness and the golf course, and it makes sense from here on my couch in Manuka.
How about we start everybody on the top of the world, and then drive them down to the golf course?
There we go. Golf carts.
Golf carts right down the mountain.
I do want to talk about the golf course. I'm interested about what they did with the out of bounds and the bunkers and throwing out of bounds. They use the bunker rule which if you're not familiar with that, if you throw out of bounds or in the bunker area, you play from your lie and have a penalty stroke. So you're not taking it last spot, it was inbounds. I'm kind of warming up to that because one thing that I've always hated about traditional out of bounds is bringing in having to argue about where you were last in bounds.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're bringing in the human element, and I've always hated that. And it's been, you're not always going to get the right call.
Correct.
You know, people aren't watching. People see different things, or
Yep.
you know, I'm going to argue that I was inbounds way up there when maybe I wasn't, or that Johnny, I don't like you, so you definitely were. There's so many different things that can happen, and then you know we've seen the stroke and distance.
Mm-hmm.
It might be too punitive. You know, rethrowing. It's like playing with It could be you're playing with handcuffs. You got to lay up. There's no, you know, get as aggressive. You're not seeing. You might not be seeing some of the spectacular shots or throwing some of the great shots that you could be because you're okay. I'm just gonna lay up. And now with this bunker rule, we've seen it at USDGC over the years, here and there. It kind of works. I'm warming up to it.
I understand it. The problem I have, and I'm trying to look at this from a we'll call him a noob point of view. The fact that, you know, it looks strange to say, oh wait, so he landed 8 feet that direction and he throws it from there, but he gets an extra stroke. Why is that out of bounds? I think it looks a little strange. I understand the concept, especially when on a golf course, when you say, no, you threw into the sand pit. That's clearly a penalty. I think I would rather see someone. I know you can't do it for every location, but I still personally like the take it about where you left it, about where you went out of bounds. You know, it does bring the human element in. You know, it's not too much different than a ball drop in regular golf. I'm not a regular golf person, so I have a weird thing with like just the way it would look to a spectator who doesn't necessarily know.
I understand that, and you know but it's just you know, as a competitor and a player, it's almost making sense, even though it's kind of weird. Like I said, I'm warming up to the idea.
Sure.
I see your side of it. We're trying to explain it, or you know, if someone tuned in to Smashbox and Terry's talking about them throwing from the bunker and penalty strokes and all this, and how it could be confusing, but at the same time, maybe it could work.
I agree. I think there are definitely instances where it could work. I just, like I said, I see it strange where on one throw you throw it into the sand, you play it from there, take a penalty stroke. On the next hole you maybe throw it over the road, but you have to pull it onto the other side of the road because you're off the course and you get a penalty. Yeah. So it just adds a little more inconsistency, but I do see where there are definitely advantages to it because you're right, it does take a lot of the guesswork out. So.
Yep.
So.
But that's something interesting to watch. I'm now considering it for you know, I do some stuff at golf courses, how different it would play going into the sand trap and all that. It's something to think about.
Oh, for sure, especially if you're at a golf like I said, at a golf course, it kind of makes sense for sand traps because it's a completely visual thing. You know, well, I'll say you know where the OB is, but ask Will Schustrick about that. You generally know about where the OB is in a sand trap. I don't know.
Yep.
So, Dana.
Yep. Man, it's so peaceful without Terry.
It is. It's got an empty chair here.
Oh, you're sad though, aren't you?
No, not really. I don't mind this. This is kind of fun. It's really, I'm gonna probably get to bed at a reasonable hour tonight.
I was gonna say you're not gonna have a 6-hour after show.
I might just have like a half-hour after show, like last week, or I think I did about an hour. Well, and the last week, the after show, Terry calls me on the cell phone, and we chat with the cell phone up to the mic.
Oh my God!
Which he didn't. Yeah. I had to warn him because I told him he was on the air. I said, "Caller, you're on the air," and he didn't realize I truly meant that we were still live because he started talking, and I had to cut him off because he was going to say something. I felt that he was moving in the direction where he shouldn't be recorded. But no, I'm more excited because what happens after the after show, we turn everything off, and then he still sits here for 2.5 hours or 2 hours. A lot of times he doesn't leave till 2 a.m. because we're talking about Smashbox stuff. It's not like he's just refusing to leave, sitting there eating my chips and refusing to leave or anything. We sit and talk about Smashbox and all this other stuff, and then I have to wake up at 5:30 or 6 the next morning because I got 2 kids that need to get to school, and he's fortunate enough where he drives home. He has to drive home a half hour, but then he does get to sleep in. So, but it's nice. but it is easier, just like commentating. It'll be easier with two people.
Yeah, did I miss any announcements for Pro Tour? Does he have a official commentator with him?
I didn't see anything. I know we're talking to Steve Dodge about a couple things as far as commentating and this and that. But there has been no announcements. If you could pick somebody, Dana, to commentate with Terry, and don't exclude yourself, who do you think would be a good co-commentator? Someone that could help carry the load. Can you think of anybody off the top of your head that you would like to see? Maybe have two choices. One that is a current disc golfer who probably won't be able to do it because they're playing, and maybe someone who isn't.
I really like Barry Schultz. I believe he's pretty well spoken. Him and Billy do really good work, and I really wish that they would have at the American Tour. I think it would have been a lot better if Barry would have just been in the studio with him.
I agree.
Instead of trying the outside the box of playing and commentating, because Billy and Barry work so well together.
Very true.
And Barry's pretty well spoken. He's very knowledgeable, obviously, of disc golf. I think Barry and Terry would be a pretty good combo.
They would. Their names rhyme, so that's always a plus. But two, they know each other. I mean, they have a history of 20 plus years, 20 almost 25 years of knowing each other from golf. So, because Barry obviously lived in Wisconsin, and so we know him very well.
Yeah. I would just right off the top of my head, Barry. I know Schwebby did a little bit of commentating with Terry at the USDGC. I didn't quite catch a whole lot of that.
I did. You could probably ask him. Schwebby needs a little bit of cleanup, but I think him and Schwebby would work very well together.
Yeah. And then, I'm hoping to be able, unless there's a second commentator, be able to join Terry for here and there, 3-4 holes.
Dana, I hope you can't. I hope you're on the lead card.
Well, I'll just put on my microphone and my pack
and commentate and throw.
Yeah, but I was thinking early rounds too. If it works out where I tee off early and then can join in later, because I feel like, as Steve Dodge had mentioned in his blog, it's tough for Terry to, Terry can do it, but to go all out for 4+ hours, 3 hours, whatever it might be, that's a lot of talking, and you run out of things to say. It's not easy, and
it's not.
I feel like in the past, when I've hopped in with Terry, it's helped alleviate some of the pressure, and then when he not just myself, but like when he has Mattis guests come on and talk.
It alleviates a little bit of pressure put on Terry, because he can, throw it to you like, oh, Dana, you just played this hole 2 hours ago. How did you attack it? How are most of the pros attacking it? And then he can take a break because as much as most of the people that are listening right now love Terry, I get sick of listening to his voice. Everybody does at some point.
Yep. We
want to hear some variety. And that's why most commentators have a color and an analyst. So.
Yep. Actually, I feel like Avery's gotten better with his commentating. I know he's on the World Tour stuff, but I feel like him and Terry could smash it as well. No pun intended.
Oh, for sure. Go ahead and go back and watch the Bowling Green AMs from a couple years ago. They did great. And Avery is always really good in front of the camera. What? I give Avery a hard time. Avery, for those of you that don't know, go ahead and watch some of the World Tour stuff. Avery loves to talk with his hands. It's pretty funny. He can't, and I love listening to Avery because he's so knowledgeable, and I think he is right up there with Terry as far as one of the best commentators. I think together they would knock it out of the park. I just get a kick out of watching him with his hand things. It's really funny when he talks about Avery's a forehand and he does that, and it's humorous.
he's incredibly knowledgeable about the
Yeah.
sport of disc golf and the history and just a lot of. I think whoever wherever he's commentating, he's going to be doing a great job. Whether he's working with Jamie Thomas or her name is escaping me, who he worked with at the Czech event. But I thought they did pretty well. I know it wasn't live, but it was just for the after show. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Maybe I just liked her accent. I don't know.
Climo does a great job. I got to commentate with him. Doss would do a very, very good job.
Oh, Doss would, yeah.
Val, I mean, I think Val could knock it out of the park. She's just hopped in for a couple holes here and there. So we have a lot of options. The problem is they're all still playing. What I'm not looking forward to is seeing Doss eventually quit playing. But when he does, we're going to snag him. Whether he likes it or not, he's not going to have a choice. We're not going to pay him. We're just going to grab him and make him commentate. Probably with like a handcuff right to Terry. Then he's stuck. So,
good luck.
Well,
good luck.
We'll see.
Well, all right. Well, you know what? I've got a 6:40 a.m. flight out of O'Hare, and I don't know if you've heard about TSA security lines in O'Hare, but
I heard just the head of the TSA guy got fired.
Yeah,
so
today.
So I didn't.
They've been experiencing some extreme delays in the security lines. So
are you going to be a frequent flyer this year?
I already have flown a bunch of times this year. I should be pre-checked and all that.
TSA pre, go get it, man.
Rookie move. I keep saying, oh, you've already flown this many times. What? It's not going to be worth it. But rookie move, Johnny. But I've still got to finish packing and getting ready to go. My dad's picking me up at 4 a.m. Yeah.
You can only hope that when you get there at 4:30 or whatever you're going to get there at, that there's not a huge line at that early of a flight. But who knows?
It sounds like things have been really crazy. So who knows? Maybe it'll be. I know they tried to hire some more people, and I also know that people didn't tune in to hear me talk about TSA lines.
People tune in for all sorts of.
But
Dana, we have lots of people in the after show, and they listen to a lot of stupid things.
Yeah. But I do want to say I'm still donating $5 if you guys go sign up to fundraise for the St. Jude event, stjude.org/disc golf. All you have to do is sign up to be a fundraiser. It doesn't cost anything. It takes a couple minutes. I will donate $5 to you.
Nice.
Surprisingly, having a hard time wrangling up 10 people to do that. I believe I've donated to 3 people that have signed up, which is honestly a little bit sad because it takes 2 seconds. Johnny, are you signed up?
I'm not, which I was just saying I need to do that because with the Skip Ace Fantasy Disc Golf, I'm running a St. Jude fundraiser league.
Oh, sweet.
And so I need to actually sign up so I can donate the money that I've raised, which again isn't much because not a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people really understood what the whole thing was, but it's a 50-50 league. And I need to sign up to do that. So I should probably do that. So then you have to throw $5 in my pot. So
yeah, do it. I'll post it on my Facebook wall and I will make a donation. Then for everyone else out there, if you're running a league or a tournament in the next week or so, add an extra 50-50 hole. Donate the money to St. Jude. Pick out your favorite player. Pick out me, Terry, Johnny, whomever. It's really easy just to donate a couple bucks, and that goes a long way. It goes to a great cause. It's helping disc golf in an indirect way.
And the St. Jude event is this weekend, but that doesn't mean that we have to stop fundraising. Terry and I are still looking at possibly doing a podcast-a-thon, so to speak, where we do a big one and we raise money for that, and that's going to be after the event. Because remember, Ledgestone is going to donate a huge amount to St. Jude, and we can continue to fundraise. So just because the event ends this week, that doesn't mean that our job as disc golfers are done.
Exactly. Yeah, I believe the number we're looking at 30 or 40,000 for the Ledgestone event, and then for this coming weekend's event, the goal is 300,000. We're still pretty short of that, but I mean, this is the crunch time. This is where a lot of the money starts flying, and believe it or not, a lot of your employers will match your donations. So there's a ton of easy ways to donate, or you can just go pick out your favorite pro, type in Nate Doss or my name or whatever it is, donate a nickel,
Yeah.
Johnny.
Yep.
A nickel.
A nickel.
But yeah, so I'll be out in Seaside all weekend for that. I'm excited. I'm hanging out with the disc golf boy. We're splitting a hotel.
Mr.
It's
Risley.
AJ Risley. He's for you newcomers out there, he did my Boom Goes the Dynamite intro, and he used to sit in on Smashbox here and there. But AJ is starting his tour. He just graduated college. Shout out to AJ. You know what? Big hug, AJ. Good work graduating college, going on disc golf tour. We're gonna have a good time this weekend. And Johnny,
Yeah.
it's so peaceful talking to you tonight.
It is. It's nice. It's just a casual conversation between two friends without somebody.
My blood pressure didn't even rise. I didn't have to talk about jail and Illinois and this and that.
Well, it worked. It happens.
So nice.
Enjoy it while it lasts, because next year, my pudgy friends, or next week, my pudgy friends coming back. I know.
All right, everybody.
Cool. Wow, that was Dynamite Vichy. Thanks for joining us. You can get a hold of him on all the social media platforms. Just look for Dana. He is very active in a lot of things, and clearly St. Jude is one of them. So, all right. And like I said, unfortunately, Yuli was supposed to join, but he can't. He messaged me and asked, like I said, he asked, which event are we picking? And whoever it is, he's got Macbeth second. But Macbeth isn't even playing in the St. Jude. He had to withdraw. He wants to let his back heal up. He's going to go on a long kind of, his season is starting up, and I think he wants to take a break. And on top of that, that's a really long course. So I kind of don't blame him. It's unfortunate. It's not a national tour, but it is a fundraiser I'll give him a pass. That guy's raised a ton of cash. Let him, he deserves a week off. So he missed that putt it was like this high. I so wanted that to go in. I don't care that he won or lost. I wanted to see a playoff. So anyway, what else we got going on out there? I talked to Dana about a lot of stuff as far as news and things. So we don't really have a lot going on. I was out on a couple of the different social media sites, scouring for any sort of things, but I don't really see much as far as news and notes. Everyone's talking about Masters. So if anyone has any questions out there, disc golf related right now, I'm free to answer some. Actually, you know what? I'm going to end the show. We're going to do a little bit of after show. So for Matt Kruger, who is doing phenomenal work with the UDisc app, for Dynamite Vichy, donate. We should change him to donate might. Dana donate might, because that guy is constantly doing different donations. So for Dynamite, this was podcast number 89 on I don't know, May 24th, 2016. Some of you may think, well, last week was podcast 87. Where did I miss 88? Actually, last week was podcast 88. 87 was an audio-only podcast that we didn't do live that I put up from GBO, so I had to bump all the numbers up one. But so for everybody here, including myself and Terry, who can't be here right now, who's busy doing lots of work, episode 89, this is Smashbox. Join us for the after show, and as Terry says, thank you for stepping inside the Smashbox. Actually, I think he says something like, see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox. But I never listen to him. I'm busy trying to close the show and the technical side. I rarely pay attention to that guy anyway. So, all right, we're on the after show. Yeah, Disc Golf Nerd, I know that's not what he says, but whatever. It's not my problem. That's why he does most of the talking and I do most of the clicking. So, what is it? It's 10:51. Let's do a little bit of after show stuff. Anyone have anything they want to talk about? I'm just going to hold the door open here for questions and things like that. So, thanks, Dana, for joining us Dennis Cole says I'm better off ignoring Terry. That's true. I do a lot of times. There's a lot of times I'm focused on chat and doing this, and I don't always hear what he says or sometimes what the guests say, which is why sometimes I'll maybe repeat a question and he kind of just looks at me and shakes his head. But I only have so many cycles, as we said earlier. Disc Golf Nurse says I should match Dana's donation on my St. Jude page. I might do that. I might do that. I need to get on the St. Jude thing real quick here. So, why do they call it the 2 meter rule? They call it the 2 meter rule because if you're above 2 meters, it used to be you would have to take a penalty stroke. If you were stuck from ground to the tippy top of my head, because I'm 6'6", I'm a little shorter now. Actually, I think I'm 6'5.5". But anything above that was an OB stroke, and now they've changed it so it is a tournament director's discretion. And I personally am a fan of the 2 meter rule because there are spots where, you can just throw it into a group of trees and near a basket. We've got a particular hole here at Dretzka Park where there's a one single tree right next to the basket. Maybe it's 12 feet away, but that tree umbrellas over the basket. So what's to stop me from throwing it to right to the dead center of that tree and then taking it from right underneath of it? I'm running the risk of kicking out or whatever, but there are instances where I think the 2 meter rule makes a lot of sense. And I know some people hate it because they have Velcro trees in their area or things like that, but I completely get it. And but we play in the woods. We don't have sand traps, so to speak. That's kind of like one of our sand traps. So yeah, Barsby did come out of nowhere. He didn't really have any sort of precursor to saying he was even playing. It was suddenly on, I want to say it was even like Thursday or Friday morning, I believe. He just said, "Oh, hey, I'm playing today. I qualified yesterday. Let's go." So I'm glad to see it because Barsby is, if I'd have known, he would have been one of my picks because he's very good at that course. He knows that one inside and out. I hands down would have picked him. Then again, maybe I wouldn't have because of his elbow issues. But if he feels like he's well enough to play, I hope he's getting back on tour. Disc Golf Nerd says we either play it all the time or no one does. I think you're talking about the 2 meter rule. I like it at a per tournament at TD discretion. I know it kind of comes into like, are we playing the 2 meter rule? Because maybe the TD doesn't necessarily spill it out. And I think if nothing is said, by default, they're not playing it. But I like the fact that TDs can implement that particular rule. Again, that's just my take on it. Did you see the photo of Innova discs with the Adidas logos on them? What do you think is coming of that? That's a great question. I don't know. I did not see that picture. It doesn't surprise me, though, because it sounds like Adidas and Innova are starting to become close. I mean, look at the players that are Adidas players. You've got Hannah and Paul and was it Chris Brophy? I think is one. I don't know for sure if he is, and I know he was part of the whole getting everything going, but I forget. I think there's one more. So I don't know. Would it be cool if Adidas, so to speak, got into bed with Innova? I think it'd be pretty awesome. UDisc says, I don't think the 2 meter rule is that arbitrary. That's about as high as you could reasonably expect a group of disc golfers to easily reach the disc. I suppose if you're short. I mean, for me, like I said, it's literally the tippy top of my head. It's kind of arbitrary, but it's also an easy height to estimate. It's not like 10 feet. You could look up and be like, is that 10 feet? Is that 12 feet? Like, I can't tell. But usually, the people in your group are probably close to 6 feet tall, but anywhere between 5'10" to 6 feet tall. And you could probably estimate like, that's about 6 to 7 inches. And if it's close, you always give the benefit of the doubt to the player. So there is a little less leeway. Is Paige dating Coling? I'm going to go no, because I think they're just really super good friends. They're doubles partners. I thought I heard Paige was dating somebody else. Like, I don't know if he's golfer even or not. but I'm not at liberty to say, only because I don't even know his name. So I don't know. I don't even know if they're dating or they're just, went on a date or just hung out for all I know. I don't know anything. But I know it's not Coling. So, and yes, Paige is married to Madison. They are life partners forever. They love each other very dearly with the bottom of their heart. And they're two of the most fun and wonderful people you will ever get to hang out with. So I didn't see the near ace from Katrina at the top of the world. I haven't got a chance to watch hardly any of the footage from this past weekend yet. So I want to. I've been really busy at work where sometimes I sneak in and watch some footage. I kind of put it on in the background, but I've not had a chance to see any of the footage yet. So yeah, they're kind of married like Terry and I are married. Let's put it that way. Paige and Madison are married like Terry and I are married. I might have my wife, who is probably either home or coming home soon, but when I got hitched with my wife, I told her, Terry comes along as the package, and I think he said about the same thing to his wife, because we've been inseparable for close to 20 years. So, what else is out there? It was a sweet looking ace. Yeah, that would be an awesome ace to get. There's a few holes that you think if there's an ace, everyone wants to get an ace, but there's a few holes out there in the world that you think this would be an awesome ace to get. Hole 18 is always fun at any course because usually there's a bunch of people waiting. If you're playing a casual round, they're all hanging out at hole 1. A lot of times they're pretty close to each other, so you think, oh, there's going to be a great big gallery. I'm going to look like such a stud when I hit this ace. That's kind of the way it was at Plowman Park growing up. I always wanted to ace hole 18 because there was always such a group of people there on hole 1. And I hit basket on that quite a few times. It's not that far of a hole. I can't even remember. It's maybe 270, slightly uphill. Maybe. Gosh, it's been so long. I don't even know how to gauge distances from that long ago. So, yeah. I'm Terry's work wife. True. So, yeah, you guys kind of lit up for a little bit when I was talking about making people pay for round coverage. And I kind of say, too bad. I think it should happen. Whether it's 1 week or 2, we're flexible, like it's really going to happen. The problem is you need to get everybody on board, because to have, we'll just say, Terry not do it and then Jomaz and CCDG do it would kind of wreck it. You almost have to have everybody on board. They're really the 3 main providers of next day coverage. I know McFly does some, but he hasn't really been, he's kind of been off and on the spectrum lately. I know he'll be coming up at the Pro Tour quite a bit. So we'll expect to see some stuff from him there. But I would love to see it. I mentioned it to Terry. God, it had to be almost a year ago. I said, I'd like to see you do that. Withhold that stuff for people, because people can afford a nickel a week. Or if you put a quarter in, the nice thing with Patreon is you can put a maximum amount. So if you want to put $1, but you never want to pay more than, $2 a month, you set your limits, or you can set your limits per week or however it's set up, but you can always set a limit. You can always go in after the fact and say, no, I don't want to pay for this one. This isn't the quality that I'm accustomed to. I think they slacked off on this particular one. You can cancel a particular payment. It's really, really is a fantastic way to support creative and artistic people. So, have I ever played Maple Hill? Rick is playing it for the first time tomorrow. I've not played Maple Hill. I've been there once. I got to walk I walked most of the course because we were doing some drone coverage. But I don't think I threw a single disc when I was there, because I know I didn't bring my plastic with me. That's when we did the broadcast from there 2 years ago. So yeah, I haven't played. I've putted a little bit at practice basket, but that doesn't really count. So, no, but it's a great, phenomenal course. I look forward to getting. That's our next live broadcast is the Vibram, the Maple Hill. Joe says, "Can I really give a nickel for every one of Terry's videos on Patreon?" Yes, Joe, you can. I'm literally signed up for a nickel. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up here once. Patreon.com. And every time he releases a video, a nickel is added to your thing. And once it hits a specific amount, like I think it's $2. Oh, here's Terry right now. You will be able, it'll charge your credit card. So hold on, let's see here. Caller number 1, you're on the air.
Good. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Now, actually, sir, I believe you called last week. I think this is your second time calling.
Oh, that's right. Well, that guy was a different guy. I think I'm about to get on the same highway. So why am I getting reports that someone had said I wasn't being spoke of favorably?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Never do.
I don't listen usually. Sorry, sir, if you haven't been listening to the broadcast, I can't fill you in on what has been spoken.
Well, I was just thinking that this was kind of technically, sort of officially, the first time I've ever missed our podcast.
Yeah, you've bailed out early on one or two of them, and I've done a little bit of after show stuff, but yeah, this was the first podcast I think that I specifically. This is the first podcast either one of us has officially done on our own, I believe.
So I trust you fumbled through the opening, the middle, and then the closing yet, or?
Oh, we're done. We're in the after show. No, I didn't fumble too much through it. The ending a little bit.
Yeah.
The ending a little bit, but whatever.
Not as easy as you think, is it?
Well, when you say it every time, and I was telling you, I said, I think Terry says something like, see you next week in the Smash Box or something. And I closed it and I came right back and said, no, I know that's not what he says. He says something about, see you next week when you step inside the Smash Box. But yeah, so. And on top of that, the podcast numbering was off a little bit because I forgot that we released an audio only podcast. So I had to adjust the numbering scheme. So.
I knew you'd be good for a screw up somewhere.
Of course. No, I was actually telling people that Rick says I rocked it. I'll say this, that I thought the interviews all went well. It's the opening and closing, but the interviews went well with UDisc and Dana, of course. Dana had said one or two things about you. I don't recall. I wasn't really listening to him, so.
I know you don't listen to most of your guests, so you're all right.
So.
And was it a lively show? Did we have a lot of people tuned in and taking part of it tonight?
I think we had just about 100 people watching. I think for sure. Again, I wasn't able to watch the chat as much as I normally do because I was interacting with Matt from UDisc quite a bit. But I know they put on quite a demo, and a lot of people were very impressed. So I'm really looking forward to this.
So we'll be handling the Pro Tour press conferences from here on out. Is that what you're telling me?
I think Steve Dodge is hiring us to handle all Pro Tour press conferences. For those that are listening, that's my phone telling me I'm down to 10%. It might die soon. Steve Dodge tried to do a press conference last week, and it did not fly so well. They couldn't get the Google Hangout and the chat to work, so it was kind of a mess. So that's one of the reasons we had UDisc on. But on top of that, I wanted everyone to see what they have, what potential they have. So.
I'm not going to go back and watch or listen because, frankly, I'm lazy.
That's fine.
Is this app accessible to anybody and everybody in non-Pro Tour situation? I mean, obviously you can watch it there.
Yep.
But I'm saying if I was hosting a tournament next weekend and I wanted all the stats as part of my tournament, could I in fact do that?
That is the goal. I do not believe that it's currently available, but I know that is what they're looking at doing.
Okay.
So that was a question that was asked.
All right, fair enough. And how many, we got people watching and tuned in right now?
About 72 people watching and tuning in, so.
Awesome, good. 11 o'clock. So I'll give you our update that you were about to ask.
Yep.
We just left downtown Santa Cruz, which is a little disheartening to do, but we did just leave downtown Santa Cruz, and we were with the tournament director, Braden Coolidge, who was gracious enough to treat us with something to eat and drink. And now we are headed about 60 to 90 minutes north to San Francisco, where Joe Pite of Hellfish TV, you may have seen his logo everywhere. He is going to put some fine revisions on the Masters Cup footage that we've assembled.
So everybody wants to know, when is it coming out?
We talked about that. We have to delay it a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me say this. One of the parting words that from Braden was, "Hey, what's your timeline?" And we said, "Well," we kind of hemmed and hawed and looked at each other. He's like, "I'm in no hurry. Like, if it's Friday, Saturday, whatever, you just let me know." And we said, No. It will be sooner than that. We're still shooting for realistically Thursday.
Yeah, 5. Okay, yeah. So I'm sorry, I said tomorrow, but you're right. The video said 5/26, which is Thursday. So, okay.
And to clarify with everyone, literally just a few hours ago, did we lay down the audio track with Ricky in raw form. So it clearly needs to be taken and correctly assembled and attached to the event, along with a few extra things. So I know there's a lot of people out there. I know a lot of people are asking. I'm sure there's some naysayers or even, bashers. But this was all, in fact, planned the way it was. And, yeah.
Yep. UDisc says, Terry, if you shoot them a message sometime, you may be able to beta test instant scoring for your tournament.
Well, I like the idea of that. I like the idea of announcing a large-scale tournament I'd like to do later in the year, a pretty special course, but we'll talk about that another time.
You just had a really nice promo.
No.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So
I watched it.
Yeah, a dozen times. So anyway, that is the plan. I know a lot of people are anxious, and we understand that. And I wish we had Braden on right now. Maybe we'll even have him on next week. Braden, the TD, was very explicit that he did not want it out the next day. He wanted us to take our time and to get the commentary and to do some of the extra things that are going to be included there. At no point was it ever discussed that this would be out next day. In fact, it was just the opposite.
Yeah, correct. I'm stepping away from the mic just a little bit because I turned it up so everyone could hear you better. But that was the plan. The plan was to have CCDG do the first 2 rounds. You go around and get more highlights and interviews and scenery shots and all this other cool stuff and interviews and all these things that you're going to do. And then you do the third round, the final round, and put out a phenomenal video showcasing the event, and that they didn't want that rushed. So if this was all part of the plan, that it's not like Terry just, isn't putting out it the next day. He's just doing what the tournament director explicitly asked him to do.
Correct. That's a pretty good summary.
Terry's turning into a robot here. I'm guessing he's driving up some mountains. And he died. The phone died. So, yeah, so everybody knows he's probably going to call back and I'm going to ignore him. But that was the plan right from the start, was to have Terry do that because they wanted something. Not that CCDG and those guys couldn't do it, but they saw what some of the other stuff that Joe Heidt has put out and done, and they wanted something along those lines. So they asked for something very specific. And that's what they're going to get on Thursday. So, let's see here. No, Greg. I'd love to get Greg on again. He's so much fun. Barsby we're talking about. So, he's very he's un-PC a lot. He tends to speak his mind where a lot of people don't. So yeah, that's good. Yes, so Steve Dodge tried to do a Google Hangout. First, he tried to do a Hangout on air, which kind of worked, but then didn't really, and then there was no chat. So then he ended up just doing a Google Hangout, which he had to invite individual people to. So I was invited because I was waiting there. And then, they had a bunch of other people. Bobby Brown was invited, and it was about, I think, 10 to 12 people that were invited. And it was sketchy at best. The signal quality wasn't that good. It was skipping and whatnot. So that's why we really wanted to have UDisc on, not only to talk about their app, but to give them the exposure, because of the stuff that they're doing is, like I said, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for that stuff. It opens up a whole avenue of potential for us. And I think that they are going, from what I've seen and the effort that they're putting in, they're going to become the standard for disc golf scoring. So, Disc Golf Nerd wants to know if I have a new bag set up yet. Kind of. I threw together a bag for an event that I played, Skyline Classic. Excuse me. For the Skyline Classic, I put together a bag, or my cart. Actually, I put together. So I threw in there a bunch of stuff that I knew more or less: Comets, Buzz SS, just some stable drivers. The Trespass, which I'm absolutely loving. It's a great dynamic disc. I haven't got a chance to try out a lot of dynamic disc stuff, but the Trespass that they gave me, I've got some Truths, not the EMAC Truths yet, but the Truth that I have, and I just kind of tossed that a little bit. Never during the round, but I just practicing with it, because I kind of feel like I can throw almost any driver right out of the box. As long as I know it's slightly stable, it's not going to go crazy for me. That's fine. But mid-ranges, I feel like you need to put a lot more touch on it. I don't like throwing a mid-range that I don't know, because it's a much more important shot, because you probably need to be a little bit more accurate with it. But I'm really particular about my mid-ranges. Comets, Buzzes, and yeah, that's really about it. Comets and Buzzes. So I wasn't willing to try the Truth during a tournament round. But once I get a chance to, it'll be great. Let's see here. So Rick asked me if I'm going to be at the Maple Hill Open this year. That's the plan right now. I talked to Steve Dodge, and he's bumping up his internet connection. So hopefully we can provide a really, really good quality product from the Sap House. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous, because I really like being in my cocoon down here, where I know I've got bandwidth. I know if anything fails here, I drive 20 minutes up the road one way, I've got my office. I drive 40 minutes down the road the other way, I've got another office of mine that I can know for sure that I've got really solid bandwidth with. So being on site always scares me. So I'm actually playing with a couple backup options out in the cloud that I'm going to see if I can go, just in case anything crazy happens. I just started setting those up tonight again. I had them, and then I took them down, and it's a whole mess. But so Disc Golf Nerd wants, how good is the Trespass? It's great. I really do. I parked a 375-foot hole with it. A nice big S curve. There's just a touch of a headwind, so I knew it was going to flip a little bit, and I parked the crap out of it. I was like 8 feet away, and it flies really nice. So I'm really looking forward to finding a spot for that in my bag. So I'd love to toss around at Maple Hill. I really would. And I don't even care if I have to borrow people's discs. I plan on getting out there a little bit early. We got to do some setup, but I think I could schedule a time for a round. So, are there picks for next week? We're going to make our picks probably independently. I can tell you who I picked. Let me look at who I picked. I picked Ricky to win. Because that guy's just hot right now. There's nothing stopping him. We're picking St. Jude, by the way, this upcoming week. So it's for those of you that don't know, it's a longer golf course. And I'm yawning here. And Ricky just he's been spot on. I don't know how anyone could pick against him. Second place, I picked, let's see here once. Let me pull that up. I'm giving away all my secrets here. The other guys haven't made their picks yet, but I'll deal with that. I picked Will Schustrick. I'm not normally one to pick Will, but he performed well here last year. He did not play De La, so he's coming in just for this event. It's a big, wide-open crusher course, which we all know Will can do, and I think Will's going to get it dialed in a little bit more this week than he has in the past. So I think I'm picking him to take second. And in third place, I went with Eagle. Again, it's a long crusher course, and Eagle has proven time and time again that his putt is nothing to be trifled with. And you add that to the absolute monster distance that guy has, that's a no-brainer. That is a no-brainer. I would almost pick Eagle over Will just based on how they've been playing lately, but I got a feeling about Will. And finally, I went with Sexton. So I think Sexton's got, he's got the forehand, and even though he's not known as the world's biggest crusher, I think he can get it done. I think he's going to have the consistency to stay in bounds, and I think he's going to come back after a couple of weeks of being out of the top couple spots. I think this is going to be his week. So those are my top 4 picks, and we'll see what the other guys pick. So if you want to make picks, you can go to smashbox.tv/picks. Put your picks in there. If you're not interested in doing smashbox.tv/picks, you want a more formal fantasy disc golf app, I created the Skip Ace Fantasy Disc Golf. So that's skipace.com. You can sign up for any league. I highly recommend signing up for the Inside the Circle League. That is the Dynamic Disc Podcast League, where they're giving away prizes most weeks. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm waiting, Bobby. I'm waiting for your podcast. Normally you guys record on Mondays, but I know with EMAC out, you're bringing in Dixon. So let's get on that. I'm running low on podcasts. So I haven't thrown the air trespass. I think I just have the fluid, not the fluid. I don't know. It's a white one. It's like a, sorry, Dynamic Disc. It's like a pro type plastic. It might be a Fusion. It might be the Fusion. So I don't know all their plastic types yet. So, but I know it's not an air. Yeah, watching Schuster throw in person is nuts. I got to watch him on a slightly more wooded course years ago when he was first started touring regularly. He was a big name already, but he really started getting around to touring. And just watching him at the time throw rocks, like just 450 feet on a line. That guy has some crazy sick good form. It's ridiculous. So, Scott says that Sexton has been bombing lately. Well, hopefully he's not a short thrower. I know the guy can throw at 400, probably 450 if he really wants to. But he's not known as one of the big throwers. He's known as a very consistent, very good putter, very consistent thrower, very accurate thrower, but he's not known as a bomber. But I think he'll be doing fine. So William Jenkins says he finally got on skipace.com. Yes, I'm glad. Lucid. Yes, I have a Lucid. I believe then it is. It's actually a couple of them right over there. I believe it is a Lucid trespass, and I love it. I really do. So I'm glad I've got a small stock of them now, thanks to Puppy Brown, with a cool Smashbox logo on them. So I'm glad, William, you got into skipace.com. I'm hoping, I've got some plans for it in the future. I'm not messing with it right now because we're in the middle of the season, but I think once the season ends, I'll be kind of tweaking it and working it. I don't have nearly the design skills or the back end skills that UDisc has. Everything that I did with that website, I more or less went out to a web page, did a search on what I wanted to do, found a tutorial, and kind of copy and pasted and edited it the way I needed to. I can read coding languages and I can kind of decipher them. And I know in my head how to make things happen, but it takes me a long time to really get down what I want to get down. So what I did, what took me, 4, 5, 6 weeks, they probably could have hammered out in 4 days. Andrew Nichols, what do I think of Dude? I'm assuming you mean the clothing company. I haven't had a chance. I know Terry wears it. He loves it. I haven't had a chance to pick any up. It looks good. Clothing companies are always really tough though, because people are finicky. Look at Crush Clothing. I haven't, Robbie Bratton, who runs Crush Clothing, has some really cool designs, but it's really tough to stay on trends. You have to be up to date and constantly getting new stuff out. And then you've got inventory. If something goes out of style, it's really tough. So basic is usually better. And Crush is very unique. There's a lot of people that wouldn't wear Crush clothing because of the style. But it is more fashion forward than some people are willing to take. So But Dude is pretty basic stuff. I think it might be a little on the high end priced. You know, if I can pay as much as I want to support a disc golf company, a lot of times where I would buy Dude clothing would be probably at a tournament, but I'm usually not looking to buy clothing there. If I'm looking to buy clothing, I'm probably going to maybe not necessarily a Kohl's, but maybe an REI or something like that where I get some sporting gear. So, but I would like to get some Dude clothing just to kind of maybe like a pair of shorts or a shirt or something. So. Yeah, Tensor Guy says, I wish Dude would come out with some less expensive fabric for a less expensive option. Bingo. You know, it's hard to justify spending, you know, I don't even know what they spend, but let's just say $45 on a pair of shorts when I know that I can get a pair of shorts for $20 or $15 from my local Kohl's, and it just doesn't say Dude on it, and it might not be as nice a quality, but it's something that I know I've gotten before. So then that's why clothing is tough. So, like, I'm wearing a Skyline shirt right now, which was Terry's clothing company that he's kind of started, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And it's, you know, it's hard to come up with new designs. It's hard to come up with a good logo. Huck Lab has been very lucky. A lot of people like the Huck Lab logo, so they've put it on everything, you know. But in general, clothing is tough. So, hello, Mr. Miller.
Hello, am I still on the air?
You're still on the air. You're caller number 12. Call back for the Mariah Carey CD.
I'll be there.
So
Oh, baby. Now that my boy Nick Cannon's out of the picture, Mariah.
yeah.
Right? No?
Yeah.
Some say she's crazy. She's like a older, crazier Britney.
Whatever. You know, that's if that's what you're into, that's what you're into.
Anyway, so me and my travel companion here, we were just talking about maybe we should go by YouTube again. Like I went there last year and saw that they actually have a basket in the back of their I don't want to call it a compound, but the back of their property
Yeah.
in San Francisco.
Mm,
It was rumored as to them having a course, but yeah, there's baskets in the back of YouTube's property, which is pretty cool. I saw them with my own eyes last year.
well, just go there right now. Jump the fence. Get a couple.
Yeah,
Get
and
a.
I'll be like, bro, you heard of Smashbox? This is live.
Yeah.
So,
Joe from the chat board says Mariah Carey's getting married again.
we'll see about that.
As long as I've known Terry, he's had a crush on Mariah Carey from when we were 13 years old, 14 years old. That's Mariah Carey's been his girl. So
Again, someone would say she's crazy. I think
she just hasn't found the right Terry.
Yeah. Care Bear, yeah,
No.
right, Carrie, no?
Nope.
Anyway.
We had a discussion about people who might make good co-hosts with you tonight, and Dana mentioned Barry Schultz, so we could have Terry and Barry. So.
No, definitely. I don't know. He's kind of an old man.
Yeah, but so was Schwebby, and Schwebby did fine.
I'm just kidding. No, that was a play on Billy continually calling old. Yeah, it will be interesting. I think we're now in the process of seeing some of our players. Obviously, Avery Jenkins and Eric McCabe have now had some media and microphone time and exposure.
So I'm hearing you say that they're washed up golfers.
No, I didn't say that.
I think that's what I heard. I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
I called it last week that Macbeth was washed up and that guy lost again. So
Yeah. So I would like to know where the Yuli's picks are at.
what do you mean?
As to results from this week.
Results from last week. Hold on, I can bring those up. Actually, I do know. So we all kind of stunk it up. Yuli got 3 points because he picked Macbeth second, and that's the only one he got right.
Oh, wow.
You got 2 points because you had Macbeth Wysocki reversed first and second.
Yep.
And I got 1 point because I had I had Macbeth in second place and not first, but we didn't pick Wysocki at all. So Yuli and I. So I think the scores, I believe I looked, and you're at 60 points. I'm at 46, and I think Yuli's at 40. Something like that. So we're picking St. Jude next week. I actually went through with our reviewers, and I went through my picks. So you need to go out there and make your picks at some point.
All right. I've got some good insider information that I won't be sharing with anyone when I'm making my picks.
That if it involves people who are particularly not playing that are on the list, that's not fair. But
no, wait a minute. When this was set up, Julie himself thought, "Oh, I'm going to be great at this because I got insider info."
I agree.
You spend 11 days in California. I think that's the least that can be afforded to be is a little insider info on this ever so pointless segment we do.
Well, I'll say this: is Sexton actually playing?
I cannot comment on that.
Because I know Macbeth is not, so I didn't know if Sexton. He's on the list, and I did pick him, so I'm gonna have to go in and I'll do a little bit of digging myself.
Oh, okay, feel free. I did experience. Speaking of losses, though, again, you know how big of a basketball fan I'm really not, but I was shocked to see the Golden State Warriors getting handed to them again tonight.
Yep, they did lose again tonight, so I will. A small part of me wants to see them lose, just because I'm always a fan of like the underdog. But a small part of me wants to see them win too, because they had the best season ever. So I kind of like to see them complete the season. So, but frankly, I don't care either way. So.
Okay. And again, a status update, and traveling is going actually quite well here. We are exactly 30 miles out from San Francisco.
All right.
So, the thing I've repeated a few times this week is I hate being on this side of the country. I feel like I'm behind the rest of the country. And I know I am hours-wise, but it doesn't feel right. I feel like I'm behind.
Well, I don't like it in that, I mean, if you think about it, West Coast always gets like a different viewing time for TV shows and stuff, so you're always behind. But, and I think, again, I've always said it, I think the Midwest is the best time zone, only because, like, and I know it's a silly thing to gauge it on, but football starts at noon. A nice, good, even time. Not 1 o'clock, not 11 o'clock, not 10 a.m. As nice as it would be to have football start at 10 a.m., it starts at noon. Like, that's a perfect time. It's like dead center when you want to start. So I always think that's the perfect gauge as to what the correct time zone is. It's the central time zone.
Well, don't ever move to Cario, because you'd be in trouble.
Okay.
That's random. So St. Jude is next on the list.
Yep.
For Yuli's picks. Okay, that's exciting. There has been some hubbub about it, of course. Talking about the players that are going. Also talking about. I know Dana's going to be flying out there. Now, was Dana even on the show tonight? I know he flies out in the morning.
He was. We were going to have him first, but then he had to go pick up Ashley from a drunk fest, and so he was late. So we ended up going with UDisc first, and then followed it up with Dana.
Okay. So I believe Dana. I think Dana gets into California within minutes of when I'm getting on my plane.
Yeah, he leaves O'Hare. He said he leaves O'Hare at 6:40, and I think he arrives at like 9:30 or no, maybe something like that.
I think that's perfect. Yeah, because I leave at 9:35 tomorrow. Okay. Anything else on the board? Any excitement? What was the talk of the town, especially with Drew Gibson making his post today, which I've yet to read?
There wasn't much. I brought it up with Dana about Drew basically saying that he doesn't know how he feels about having De La finish on the golf course rather than at the top of the world. Sure. And Dana and I both said we understand it, but you need to look at the future as far as spectators, because you cannot even have 50 spectators at De La without somebody falling and getting hurt. So, because De La is just not a spectator-friendly course. So pushing it down to the golf course is fine. And who knows, in the future, they might move more of the rounds down there. And as great as De La is, and as much as I would prefer to play De La, the golf course is probably a better future. Even though I'm still not a fan of watching golf on a golf course. I'm not a big fan of always watching big crushing shots. I'd rather see more technical and accurate shots. But we do what we can.
Well, if you would have seen the footage, that's the subject, but I was really impressed with the layout that they used. Overall, it was a really good layout. People can, nitpick about any given shot or,
of course,
green or OB or whatever. Of course, you're never going to, please, have a course that pleases everyone. However, I think they did a really good job with the course. I know a ton of work was put into it. Just for the sheer fact of appreciating some of that. The problem is that falls on a lot of the players, and maybe even spectators and viewers can't fully appreciate what it takes to get it to where it did. And for that, I think they definitely need to be applauded.
Of course.
And so I know Braden's very progressive and forward thinking about, like you said, the future, the growth, where things can go, and what it really means for everybody. And he's calling me right now, so you're gonna have to hold on.
I'm gonna hang up with you because my phone's gonna die anyway. So have a good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. That's how you get rid of Terry Miller, folks. And I'm not going to answer his call again. I know I said that last time, but I'm not going to answer it. So, because we're getting ready to get out of here. I heard my wife actually just come in. So, yeah, Michael, I'm sorry you could barely hear him. It doesn't work well for whatever reason. If the microphone has to be, or the phone has to be directly on top of the mic, I should have just plugged his mic in and sat with his side address mic. I'm going to level out those audios in the podcast. I've got a nice little program called Levelator, which tends to work out very well. So, yeah, it's a directional mic, exactly. And then I can't talk if I'm off to the side and whatever. So that's life. We'll again, that's what after show. We show up, So if there's nothing else out there, which doesn't look like there is, we're starting to lose viewers, which I don't blame you. It's getting late. It's 11:30 here. But if anyone has any other questions, I'm free to answer them. Otherwise, I'm gonna close this mother out. By the way, Game of Thrones, killing it. Doing phenomenal. Disc Golf Nerd is posting his 100th review tomorrow. So, congratulations, Disc Golf Nerd. I swore we would never do reviews on this show. Not never. We do some reviews. If you have product, I don't do disc reviews. Product reviews we'll do, not disc reviews. So, just because discs are so flaky, everybody throws them differently, different styles, weights, whatever. It's hard to judge. So, me. All right. If it looks like we got nothing. So, for John, that's me. Thanks everybody. For Terry Miller, who called in on the phone, and he's not going to listen to this, so I can really say anything I want to about him. He's one of the good guys, though. If he wasn't, I wouldn't be getting into business with him. So next week is episode 90. So for both of us on this after show for podcast 89, we'll see you next week after you step inside the Smashbox.